Hello, and welcome to Media-eval, a medieval pop culture podcast, where we talk about how medieval and medieval-inspired movies, TV, and books depict the medieval world. What do they get right? What do they get wrong? And what do they tell us about how modern people see the medieval past? I'm Sarah ifft, a medieval historian, and today I'm joined once again by Media-eval's original co-host, Ollie Brady, to talk about the 2016 film Assassin's Creed. So, Ollie, welcome.
Wait. What are we talking about?
The movie, Assassin's Creed.
There's a movie?
Yeah, there were the games, and then they made a movie of it.
We weren't supposed to play the game?
I don't have time to play a video game.
It was 55 hours of my life.
Yeah, that's why we didn't do
55 hours. I'm not... So anyway, dear listeners, we're going to take a break and we'll join you back in... How long is the movie, Sarah?
About 2 hours.
Okay, we'll be back in about 2 hours when I go and watch this movie.
Enjoy.
And we're back. Yeah, I chose this movie, Sarah, because I'm a huge fan of both Assassins and Creeds.
Creeds are great. Assassins also cool. Then there's this movie.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like we may be disagreeing at various points during this podcast.
We might be disagreeing. So Assassin's Creed, the movie, which came out in 2016, stars...
And not the game, which is a worthwhile 55 hours of goddamn time, sir.
For those with 55 hours to spare, I'm sure. I had, at most, 2 hours to spare, and I spent them on this movie, which stars Michael Fassbender. Himself.
Ireland's own.
Yep. Which is why he is playing the very American Cal Lynch / the Spanish man, I'm going to assume Castilian man, I suppose, Aguilar de Nerja.
Wait, how do you pronounce that?
Aguilar de Nerja.
Oh, because I've been calling them like the movie does, Aguilar.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
It's like the first time it popped up, and I watched this movie recently. You may have heard with the subtitles on, and it popped up Aguilar, and I was there going, "Oh, this is like they'll make some attempt at pronouncing it correctly," but nope, Aguilar, and like really guttural, harsh version with the hard G, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever, especially when the other Spanish-speaking characters call him.
Right. It's, it's a choice. There are a lot of choices made in this film.
Excellent choices, yes.
Another choice is, so Marion Cotillard is in this movie as Dr. Sophia Reichen. Marion Cotillard's haircut, what was anybody thinking?
I kind of loved it. I think this might be the best.
Are you serious? I hate that haircut so much. She looks like it's a bowl cut.
It makes her look like a very sexy scientist. And as a very sexy scientist, I just felt a connection between myself and Marion.
Okay. Jeremy Irons is also a very sexy scientist, as her father, Alan Reichen.
He's not really a scientist. He's more of a Templar first.
He's a Templar first, a scientist second. She is a scientist first, but as we'll get into, she's the kind of scientist who thinks the Bible is literally true, like all scientists.
Yes, like all of us. I do think we were just talking beforehand about the casting choices for parents and daughters. I would love to see the lady that managed to produce Marion Cotillard or Cotillard with Jeremy Irons, because where did those genetics come from? Because they didn't come from Jeremy Irons. I can tell you that for a fact.
I mean, this movie also presumes that Michael Fassbender is the child of Brendan Gleeson and Essie Davis, which does not make sense, nor does it make sense really that at some point you're claiming that this family is Castilian Spanish.
Yeah, he's the last of the line, Sarah.
I mean, yeah, so I guess the line has been diluted over the years.
It's been diluted a lot by very pale white Irish people.
Apparently. And now Americans, since they're American now, I guess. Sort of? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Fassbender's attempting his American accent.
Yes.
Which just means he flattens out anything that sounds like character in his voice.
Yeah. You know, as you do. That's it. I mean, that's pretty much America. You take character and culture and then just replace it with racism.
Oh my God, Sarah, come on. Don't be so harsh on your chosen people.
They're not my chosen people. I didn't choose to be American. It's like my grandparents' chosen people. This movie also stars Charlotte Rampling as Templar Elder Ellen Kay and Michael K. Williams as Musa, who I wish had been in this movie more because he's the best looking person in this movie.
He also has... that dude has the best voice.
He does.
Like, it's like melted butter. Like, what does he call him at the beginning? He calls him like prophet or something like this, and just he's a prophet, and it's just the way he says it, so deep and just like dropped in. And then he says, "I'm a 200-year-old voodoo poisoner." You're like, oh, good choice, movie.
I mean, I would watch that movie about Michael K.
I
Williams
would,
as
definitely.
a voodoo poisoner in the 19th century or whatever.
All I can say is, at least they didn't try to make him speak with some sort of patois.
Oh yeah, thank God.
Like, because that would have been one of the worst choices the movie could have made.
It made a lot of choices. It didn't make that one, at least.
Excellent choices.
Baffling choices.
Sarah, I feel like we've gone through the cast list, and now we should, recap what happens. Now, for the listeners at home, I'm obviously going to sing enumeratio in a second. That's not what I'm getting at. Sarah's written 7 pages of notes for this movie, and if anyone's watched the movie, you're thinking to yourself, how are there 7 pages of notes? Because I just watched the movie, and I'm thinking, how are there 7 pages of notes for this movie?
It deserves.
But we're going to find out in the enumeratio. I've not gotten any better.
My mom's going to be so happy.
Well, I love making your mom happy because she's a lovely lady.
For centuries, the Order of the Knights Templar have searched for the mythical Apple of Eden. They believe it contains not only the seeds of man's first disobedience, but the key to free will itself. If they find the relic and decode its secrets, they have the power to control all freedom of thought. Only the brotherhood called the Assassins stands in their way.
In fairness, that's a catchy opening.
So that is the opening crawl.
I want to know more.
I want to know more. I'm already a little confused about a couple of things.
Oh, what's confusing you, sir?
I'm confused about A, why the Apple of Eden is a mind control device, and B, why they think it's still floating around, because if you read the Bible, the point is that they ate it.
Well, as somebody who has invested 55 hours of his life into playing a video game, there was a race of people who existed before humans called the Ayos, and they had great technologies. And one of the great technologies was the ability to control lesser beings like humans. And what happened was that Adam and Eve stole a part of that technology, which was the apple. And religion is just a version of that story that's been doctored to cut out
the aliens,
the Eos, as they were called. Some people would call them aliens, Sarah. I myself might just call them grandfather or great grandfather. I could be one of those races.
Ancient aliens.
Technologically, yeah, okay, there was ancient aliens. It's the only thing that makes sense.
I'm also wondering a little bit about what the Templars are doing here. The Templars, an order that was formally disbanded in the 14th century. But I guess we'll discuss that as we keep going. Because in Andalusia in 1492, the Inquisition has finally delivered Spain to the Templars, a sentence that I cannot say with a straight face.
I'm looking at the notes that Sarah has written for this, and I can tell that she was a combination of laughing to herself while she wrote them, and I'm going to guess angry.
A little angry. That's why there's 7 pages of notes.
Yeah, there's definitely some anger coming through in this. So apparently Sarah has some issue with the Templars still being around in 1492. But I have a much more pressing thing that pops into my head, right? So once the year 1492 pops up on your screen in a movie, in anything, Sarah, what's the first thing that pops into your head?
I mean, I think of the expulsion of the Jews from Spain.
Listeners, what's the first thing that pops into your head when you hear the year 1492?
Yeah,
and if
Columbus.
Your answer is not Columbus.
It's Columbus. I know most people think it's Columbus.
So the expulsion of the Jews. It's all. We'll get to that in a second. This must have happened just afterwards because I don't think we have any of your actual chosen people in this movie. But
they should have been.
In 1492, and I was thinking to myself, they have to be using this year for a reason. And dear listeners, I was not disappointed. We get a Columbus sighting near the end of this movie.
I was disappointed.
I was so excited. I know you were disappointed. I was so excited. I was like, oh, it's our boy, our murderous rapist boy.
Yep. So yeah, I was disappointed both by the absence of Jews or references to the expulsion of the Jews from Spain, and also to by the inclusion of Columbus, but we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, he pops in at the end. I imagine you were also most angry because they were still talking about the Templars.
Yes, it's saying that they're the same as the Inquisition, basically?
Yeah. Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
I really struggled watching this movie.
Guys, I don't think I've ever seen Sarah this combination of baffled and angry.
I'm so angry.
I'm adding a point onto my score for the end of the movie.
So we learn that the Inquisition is about to deliver Spain to the Templars. However, Sultan Muhammad, I don't know what religion he is technically, because they have never said it in this entirety of this film, is still holding out in Granada. We also meet our assassins. We meet Aguilar and his partner Maria, who are working to defend Spain against Templar tyranny by protecting the apple. The apple. La manzana. La manzana es todo. They actually do say that line in Spanish, and I did just want to get to say it. La manzana es todo.
As I was watching it, I was saying to myself, going to have to do a podcast with Sarah. She's going to put on all these wacky accents, and because later on there's Arabic as well. But yeah, it was the Spanish good?
It was okay. I would say it was fine. I didn't catch every little bit of it, but what I caught seemed fine.
Yeah. Well, you've been in Spain with me, so you know my Spanish amounts to absolutely nothing, basically. And even the little bits that I think I know, I'm wrong. So I was listening, I was going, yeah, I can recognize some of these words. But yeah, I'm happy to know that at least they were getting it close to correct.
Yeah, it was fine. It was acceptable.
Sarah just does not want to give any praise to this movie.
We also hear the vow of the assassins, which includes that where other men are limited by morality or law, remember everything is permitted. So these are supposed to be the heroes.
They are the heroes, Sarah. They're the assassins.
I'm not sure I'm on board with the premise.
The premise is that the Templar Knights, the Catholic Church in some way.
Okay, the Templar Knights were destroyed by the Catholic Church.
Sarah, I'm not the people making this movie, okay? I understand this. We've discussed this before, right? But the Templars represent organized religion, and the assassins represent the freedom of people to say to religion, go F yourself. And effectively, they're the good guys because they're fighting against the controlling of people by, the opium of the masses, the religious experience.
But what I don't like about this phrasing is that it's implying that morality is equivalent to religion, which I think is an inherently problematic framing because I, an atheist, still have morality. it might not be the same morality precisely as somebody who is an adherent to organized religion and thinks that morality is hating gay people. But I know that's not true of all people who are practitioners of various organized religions. Don't at me, whatever. But
Sarah, did you just hashtag not all practitioners
Yes.
of organized religion?
Yes.
Please don't do that. we can lump them all together.
Yeah, I mean, I as I said, I know not everybody hates gay people because they think God told them to, despite the fact that if you actually read the Bible, God thinks it's worse to light a fire on the Sabbath than it is to be gay. But anyway.
Sarah, wait, just a quick question. Did you read the Bible, or did you just stop about halfway through before you got to the good parts?
A, I have read the parts that you're referring to, and B, it would actually be more like parts. 3/4 of the way through, because the New Testament is a mere fraction. It actually, I think, might be less than 3/4. Shoot, I was going to grab a Bible and check, but I don't have with me here a Bible that includes that section.
You were worried about scorching your hands, obviously.
Yeah, here I only, at home, I only have my Bibles that include the original part of the Bible, not the part that includes the Christian fan fiction add-ons.
No, you mean, like, there's a reason why certain parts of the Bible are referred to as the good book. And it's because they're the good parts. Anyway, let's move on. So we're now in Mexico, where Teen Cal, so he's, how old would you say he is at this stage?
Okay, so I think this child looks like he is at most 11, maybe 12.
Yeah, he looks about that to me. He's got a weird curly-haired haircut that no child over the age of about 13 keeps, because they go, oh no, this looks bad. And he's out riding his BMX bike across the top of a building, and then he wipes out.
It's hilarious.
It's pretty damn good, because I assumed, like, obviously it's young Cal, like, it's obviously going to be the person who grows up to be our main hero, and I thought, like, they were going to show him doing these cool tricks and stunts and stuff. Nope, he just falls off his
wipes
bike,
the fuck out,
trying to make a jump. And then he goes back to his house, and his dad's killed his mom.
Yep, as you do. So we're not doing great on the ifft test so far.
Not so far, but she's not even named. So,
nope.
Like, I mean, as far as the ifft test is concerned, like, she was fair game.
Yeah, she's just a wash, so.
She's just there. She's grand. So she gets murdered by the dad, and the dad, like, says something along, like, one of those lines that shows up in a movie where you're like, oh, there's going to be more backstory to this, and I'm going to have to pay attention to what this backstory is, because the dad stands and, like, kind of looks over his shoulder and is like, Cal, they found us, run. And you're like, oh.
Yep. And we see the Templars approaching, and I will say, credit where credit is due. We know that it's the Templars because we can tell by the Templar cross, which, unlike some films, they did correctly.
They did. They're not upside down.
No, they are correctly an equal-armed cross.
Yeah, it's a very nice Templar cross too.
Yes. Okay, so I have a lot of problems with the casting of Teen Cal. The first problem is that although Teen Cal, unlike adult Michael Fassbender, looks like he could plausibly be the child of Brendan Gleeson and Essie Davis, he does not look like he could plausibly grow up to be Michael Fassbender.
Yeah, that's true. He doesn't. I'm trying to think who he looks like, and the only way I could come to describe it is he looks like he could be one of the kids from Home Improvement. And none of the kids from Home Improvement are growing up to be Michael Fassbender.
Exactly.
Who has a very particularly shaped head.
Right. Cal is now in Texas and about to be executed for murder, as you do in Texas.
I have a question about this, right? Now, obviously we don't have the death penalty over here and haven't had it for a long time.
Right.
But I am under the impression that it's not that easy to get executed for murder. Like,
yes, that is correct.
Yeah, so even in Texas, for him to be getting executed for murder means that, one, it must have been a pretty bad crime,
mm-hmm.
and two, they've gone through every possible way of, stopping it and staying it, and asking for, parley or whatever it is they want to call it, or trying to get them to drop it to a lesser sentence. So for him to be at the point where he's about to be executed, and this is like the morning of his execution, you got to assume it was a pretty bad crime he carried.
It must have been, I would believe, both quite brutal and also premeditated. And the other thing is that he, as you were saying, must have really been in prison for a while, because most death row cases, I believe, go through multiple appeals.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
They go through tons of... So he's been in that prison for...
Right.
Like, we're saying minimum 5 years. Like, nobody's getting executed 2 years after they get convicted.
Oh, yeah. And even if he's broke, I think death row cases are absolutely the kind of cases that you get pro bono lawyers working on that.
Yeah.
I think my dad actually at some point was consulting pro bono on a death row case.
I thought you were about to say, I think my dad, some stage in the 70s, was, he was on death row.
My dad was on death row. If anybody has met my dad, you will know that is not likely.
Dickie Greenfield? No, he's the nicest man in the world.
Ifft. He's ifft.
I know, but it's just so much funnier to say, because Dickie Greenfield sounds like he sounds like a character in The Talented Mr. Ripley. Like that's what Dickie Greenfield sounds like. And in fairness, could be a character if he was on death row, because pretty much everybody in that book at some stage should be end up in death row. But anyway, so he's about to be executed. He is executed, so he's like his.
But is
also,
he?
His last words are, "Tell my father I'll see him in hell." Right? Who is that for?
Right?
Like, so you're saying this to the random assortment of solicitors and guards and medical practitioners there. None of them know who your dad is. None of them saw the little clip from 2 minutes ago. Like, say something that's much more relevant, or anything that doesn't reference something specifically that only people watching the movie could know what you're talking about.
So I at first assumed, because of that line, that he must have killed his father.
That's what I thought as well.
Yeah, because that would make it make sense. At some stage,
he hunted down, found his dad, and murdered him.
Yeah. And that especially if he brutally tortured him because he, wanted to punish him for what he did, blah, blah, blah. Then I could actually see it kind of making sense that he was on death row as things go. As opposed to the little we find out later where I find it suspicious.
Oh, well, we'll get to why he was killed later, or why he was on death row later, because it's ridiculous.
Yes. He sees his life flash before his eyes, or at least the parts of his life that have already been in this movie mostly, because he didn't want to film any additional footage.
His life flashes before his eyes, which consist of his mom hugging him as a child, his mom getting murdered, and then him about to be getting executed. Like, literally nothing else happens in between.
God forbid they have more footage, they don't have the budget for that. And he wakes up in the whitest room ever to see Marion Cotillard. Yeah,
I think the room's beautiful. I know it's one of those, I know this is like a psychopath fest, where they're like, oh, if you saw this room or this room, which one would you want to be in or whatever? And apparently psychopaths say the white one. But I think an all-white room, if everything is just perfectly white, I think it's beautiful.
I think you're a psychopath. I think that room was creepy as fuck.
I just kind of liked it. It's just like clean design. Like, people say psychopath, and I say, if IKEA were selling this, that's what my kitchen would look like.
That room is horrifying. I think that room is the scariest place I can imagine.
An oven just built into the wall, just little touch panels that come out in their drawers and stuff like that. It's just beautiful.
They're probably meant to torture people.
Stick it. Listen, what you choose to keep in your perfectly white... It's not a psychopath room. It's just a room. Sometimes psychopaths have one like that.
Mostly psychopaths have one like that. So Marion Cotillard informs him that he is now... And
she is looking good.
I mean, I'm still a no on her bowl cut, but... I mean, she's a lovely woman. I I think she looks better with her curls.
I'm not sure she is a lovely woman. I've been trying really hard not to make jet fuel doesn't melt steel Templar crosses jokes this entire time, but I mean she is like
oh really
a 9/11 traitor. Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh fuck, really? Oh
yeah,
damn.
Yeah. She's full Mark Ruffalo.
Oh damn. Okay, so she probably basically thinks that this is like a documentary, right?
That's what I was going to say. Like, as far as she was concerned, she was just telling the world
the truth.
The Templars are lizard people
and are bent on mind control. She informs him that he is in Madrid at the Abstergo Foundation and that he is legally dead, and so that this organization is dedicated to the improvement of humankind through the complete eradication of violence. He's not that excited about this whole situation and kind of runs off, and at some point looks like he might jump out a window and gets shot with a tranq gun. Oh well.
This is a weird thing. He goes for a run. Where are you running to? Like, also you're coming out and there's tons of other people wearing the same uniform he is, or the same medical robes he is, and then there are guards, and then there are clearly medical professionals there, and his solution is just to run. Just run. I'm running. Where are you running? At one point, he climbs upstairs and goes across, and I'm thinking to myself, if I'm running anywhere, and I think I might be on the ground floor, I'm not going to climb a floor. Like why? What possible reason do you have to go upstairs here, Michael Fassbender?
I mean, you can say this
just keep running.
From your 55 hours of your life that you spent playing the video game. It actually feels very video game-like, in terms that you just kind of run wherever you happen to have an opening and sort of aimlessly because you've never played before because, you're only on the first of your 55 hours.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, you just keep running. That's what the game is. Like, murder somebody and run.
Yeah, just kind of feels like that.
But what really weirds me out about this scene is he gets up, he's standing on a balcony like he's about to jump off, which becomes like something that happens multiple times throughout his historical leanings as we go along. And he's just kind of standing there about to jump off, and then he gets shot in the neck with a tranquilizer. And then their next plan is, right, strap him into the machine.
Yes. As you do.
What? Why? How? Don't do that.
We have to strap him into the machine so he can relive his ancestors' memories.
But the thing about this is, it makes sense why, when we get to Jeremy Irons, his motivation later on is that he's told the elders, and there always has to be elders.
Of course.
So he's told the elders he's going to have it in like 4 days or whatever, right? But Marion Cotillard doesn't know that at this point.
No.
So why does she allow it to happen? Why is she okay with
it?
Well,
I thought she wasn't okay. I thought she was sort of annoyed about it.
But she didn't seem too put off by it for the very first one. She's put off by it for the second one, and she's definitely dead against it.
She seemed annoyed that they tranked him. Because
she was annoyed to trank him. She's like, I've got this.
Yeah.
And I don't think she had got it.
Right.
I think she was just overestimating how much she had.
Right. But yeah, so essentially the premise of this movie is that there's this machine called the Animus that they put you in, and that allows you, through genetics, in quote marks, to relive the memories of your ancestor. And I think it would have been hilarious if they'd put somebody in the machine and he's just some peasant hoeing fields in 1492. But they don't do that.
Just watching it in the background. Oh look at all those big high important people. Better get back to my hole.
Yeah. Ugh. Is this Conquest of Granada still going on? I really need to till this field.
Oh, this is the absolute worst. But you know what? At least we're going to get rid of those nosy, noisy neighbours in the next couple of months.
Right. So he has his first visit back to the past as Aguilar. And by the way, Aguila means eagle in Spanish, which I assume is why you keep seeing an eagle that is never explained every time he goes back into the past.
Well, that's for those of you who have spent 55 hours of your life playing a video game. You can get a thing called Eagle Vision, which is a skill of the assassins to be able to use a bird to, fly in and scout out the region for them.
That also makes sense for those of you who spent 55 hours playing the video game, which I didn't.
Thanks again, Sarah.
You're very welcome. I hope you enjoyed that 55 hours.
Actually, to be honest with you, it was pretty good. But I do have an issue with the eagle, and it's that CGI, even in 2016 when this was made, is not good enough to do this sort of stuff.
No.
It's absolutely the fakest thing in the movie.
Every time a video
eagle
game
shows up to go for a fly, it looks like a video game. It looks shocking, and they put like a crazy fog over everything. I think you mentioned it.
Yes, it looks like London in the Industrial Revolution, not Andalusia in the 15th century.
Yeah, it just doesn't. It doesn't make any sense for it to be this dusty and foggy.
No.
And yet it is. So, like, and again, like, I've been in Andalusia, like modern Andalusia, when we do have motorways driving through it, and even on the worst days, it doesn't get anywhere near as blurry as this. Like, it's as stupidly beautiful as Spain is. The skies are almost always clear.
Yeah.
Which is a massive problem when you're as bald as I am, because sunburn is only a second away if you're not paying attention.
This is why I get very tan when I go to Spain, and then go back to, and then immediately lose it when I go back to America and return to never being outside because I'm an academic.
Yeah, that's true, Sarah. I mean, as we can see from our two camera pictures here, we're both as pale as each other.
I mean, hey, that's why I tan as opposed to burn in Spain.
Yeah, whatever, sallow skin. Kick you out of my country. So we go back into the past, and what the Animus does is it allows you to basically live the events of your ancestor's life. Right?
Yes.
In the video game, it allows you to take control of your ancestor and actually maybe possibly change the history a little bit.
Oh, here it explicitly says you can't.
Yes. So because it's a video game, you have to be doing something. You're not just watching a very long extended cutscene. So you have to take over and control them. But in this, like, because we're always watching Michael Fassbender doing Michael Fassbender stuff, we're not controlling anything. So I think they've slightly changed it so that you can't change anything that happens, but you can learn from it, or you can pick up information. And that's what they're doing, because they want to find this apple, even though we don't technically know that that's what they're looking for at this point, because Marion Cotillard hasn't explained it to him. But we're going back to this Aguilar, and we're going to see him trying to save a little boy from some scumbags. Yeah,
so it's the Prince of Granada, Ahmed, and so he has been captured by Ojeda, who is this kind of thuggish enforcer sort of guy. He's presented as being Torquemada's the Grand Inquisitor, and he's presented as basically Torquemada's enforcer. And their plan, the Inquisition / Templars, God, I hate saying this. Their plan is to use the kid to pressure his father, who is the Sultan of Granada, to surrender the kingdom and / city, and thus bring Spain under one Templar rule. Is a sentence.
So they're doing it for the good of Spain and its people. Or so, they would have you believe.
Aguilar and his companion Maria, and I think there's a couple of others, they kill a bunch of people. They have essentially like a medieval car chase, and it looks very briefly like they've sort of maybe recovered the boy, but they kind of topple off a cliff and end up all being captured by Ojeda.
I only just watched this, and I still don't understand why the end of that chase ends the way it does, because there's an exciting action scene, there's some good battles, and I genuinely enjoyed the action in this movie. And then this cart chase involves the little boy is inside a cage, and Fassbender gets onto the horse. Maria knocks the leading horses off so that the cart is going on its own and is about to go off a cliff. So that's what leads to Michael Fassbender getting caught, because he jumps off and fires, a hook back to stop him from falling off the cliff. But if she didn't unhook the cart, they could have just ridden away.
Yes, I assume.
So yeah, so that what I'm getting is, so why does she unhook the cart?
Don't know.
Like,
I just don't know.
but anyway, it ends up they get caught. We don't get to see what happens. I assumed they were just going to cut the rope and he was going to fall, but no, because Marion Cotillard pulls him out before he has a fit, effectively.
Yes. And Sophia discusses things with her father. We get to hang out with Jeremy Irons, and they are very excited that they now have confirmation that Lynch is indeed the last direct descendant of Aguilar, and basically discuss whether, like, strategically they should be nice to him or not.
Yeah, this is a weird scene. He's talking to Marion Cotillard, who's invented this animus, right, as part of the Abstrago program, or whatever it happens to be called, okay? So, and he compares her to Rutherford splitting the atom in, I think he says 1916, 1917, whichever year he says, which one is not what happened in that experiment. Like, it's splitting the atom implies that you take an atom and you split it.
Mm-hmm.
What happened in that experiment was Rutherford, great scientist that he was just firing alpha particles at nitrogen gas to see what happened, and he caused transmutation for the first time, where one of the alpha particles was absorbed by a nitrogen and then split to produce an oxygen and a hydrogen.
Okay.
And then that was the first discovery of the proton, effectively, because he said that, you know, you can get a hydrogen atom out of thing. But it took another 10 years for somebody to prove that he was correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Berkeley Bradford. But my point there is, like, first of all, for him to name drop that is weird. Because then he jumps to 1953 and he's like, Watson and Crick discovering the DNA helix, right? Number one, like, let's give Rosalind Franklin her due.
I mean, this movie is stealth about men taking credit for things that women do. So,
oh, it 100% is, right? But it's just the idea that you would jump everything in between for those two completely non-connected. Like,
right.
I get, even if you want to make that we're looking at genetic code, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Watson and Crick gets brought up. What has Rutherford's experiment got anything to do with the animus or anything like this here? Like, surely you could have taken any of the other incredible electrical achievements that have been achieved since that point and linked that with Watson and Crick. But then he says, and now my daughter. And I'm sitting there going, what your daughter has achieved, irrespective of finding a goddamn apple somewhere, is science that the greatest minds in history would never have even dreamt of. Rutherford would have been sitting looking at this lady and going, my God, I can see the face of God in this person.
Like, who gives a shit about the stupid apple? This person has found a way for us to, like, relive the memories of our ancestors through genetics. That's like, awesome.
It's actually, like, it's genuinely amazing. And then he's acting like, why we get this apple, this God apple, and my daughter has done everything. You're like, she's already done everything. She's effectively reached that Arthur C. Clarke thing where, I think it was him who said that if you reach a science so advanced that it's indistinguishable from magic, right? Like, that's what she is. Like, this is magic, her science is. And her dad is just like, yeah, but I mean, once you get that apple.
Good job. Good job, honey.
Yeah, well done. But it's so bizarre. But just to name drop those two things, which are not connected to each other at all, slightly inaccurate description of one of them, and then jump to her. Like, even, like, I don't understand how he seems to imply that Watson and Crick to then Marion Cotillard. Like, we're ignoring everything that's gone in between. Like,
nothing else happened.
Nothing other useful has been done in the last 65 years of science, but hey, at least we can do the animus now.
Thank God.
Anyway, it's bizarre to me that this is what they're choosing to do.
There's a lot of bizarre things about this movie.
It's an excellent choice.
So Jeremy Irons, Raken Sr., then has this conversation with Charlotte Rampling's character, this Templar elder. First of all, they are sitting before a painting of the Inquisition and are basically like, ah, the good old days. And also I'm going to talk about this painting later because there are some adjustments that are made in the film to reality. But I'll get to that when I get to that. But they're talking in front of this painting, and Ellen tells, what's, God, is his name Alan? Okay, so Kay tells Raken,
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing Ellen and Alan. Kay tells Raken that basically, oh, now everybody cares more about comfort than civil right, cares more about their comfort than about their rights. And so we don't really need the apple because people are easily manipulated enough already as it is.
Yeah.
And that they're going to take away funding. She also feels the need inexplicably to comment on his daughter's physical appearance. She's like, oh, and your beautiful daughter. I'm like, why are you talking about what she looks like? Why is that relevant here?
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
Creepy, right?
It doesn't even seem to make much sense either, because it's just like, okay, she foxy. Why is this old lady saying this to him?
Right. And I mean, honestly, I was like, is she supposed to be like hitting on her? Like, what is happening?
Yeah, it does feel predatory.
Yeah.
And then later on, there's another moment where you're like, she definitely
what
she's scoping on this girl.
What are they doing? Okay, so it's weird. Cal, meanwhile, starts hallucinating Aguilar, and Sophia offers to help him control things. He basically just tries to beat her up instead, which, as much as I don't love violence against women in this particular situation, I can't totally blame him, because she basically, kidnapped him and then put him through an obviously traumatic experience.
It's a weirdly... he grabs her by the throat.
Yeah.
And gently maneuvers her back to the wall, because he's definitely not pushing her against the wall. Right? It's like because there's no impact between her and the wall, and he's got his hand on her throat. And then she tells the guards who are obviously watching to stand down, she's got this or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then asks him, why the aggression? You're like, well, because he wakes up from being meant to have been put down effectively. Yeah. Gets tranquilized, then gets put into a machine which allows him to live in the past of his ancestors. And then a woman, the lady who's basically perpetrated all this, just walks in and no explanation. And he's like, oh, well, why are you aggressive to me? Oh, because I'm an aggressive person. No, you're perfectly justified in this situation.
Any normal person would be aggressive. And also, okay, have they still not fed this man?
Yeah.
I think his last meal before he got executed was probably, at this point, still the last thing he's eaten. And so then he's like, I'm hungry. And then instead of feeding him, she takes him to go see the, creepy serial killer board that they've set up about him and his family history.
Yeah, well, she tells him all about, I know everything about you, right? And then at one point she mentions... including your MAOA gene mutations, right? So that's a real thing. That is a gene that humans have, and it controls your release of serotonin, right? And if you have a certain mutation to the gene, you can't release serotonin. Serotonin obviously is your body's natural relaxant, right? So if you don't have a way in your body to release that naturally, you are more aggressive, right? And they have found that in quite a few serial killers, they have less of this MOA, or an unswitched on gene, basically. And so, that's another just one sentence of here's some science that somebody read in a book once, and we're not really going to explain it or give any more details. We're just going to say you've got this mutation, so that somebody who's listened to it, who I did genetics in college, I have a very basic understanding of that particular gene. So it jumped out to me and I went, oh, well, that's what it said. But otherwise, who knows about, other than the fact that if you look it up, I'm fairly certain if you look it up now, Sarah, if you type it in, it'll say the serial killer gene.
Right.
Because Ted Bundy was found in it. That's it. Somebody at some stage, either making the video game or making the thing, came across the phrase the serial killer gene
Mm-hmm.
and then just put it into it. But it's just one of those things where they've just linked it in. So it's like, hey, we've linked you to this gene, by the way. And that's why. And like they're trying to justify what they're going to do later on, which is remove free will from the entire world's population.
Yes, as you do.
Because genetically, some of us are more predisposed to violence. And it's not that we're more predisposed to violence. We're actually just harder to... I say we. I'm not saying I have an issue with my MAOA. But some people find it harder to calm themselves down. But that doesn't mean they're more likely to have violence like that.
Right.
Like, you still have the will to say, no, I'm not going to stab this person.
Well, and also it's that the way it's framed is that it just describes as being this like proof of a link between heredity and crime, which sounds problematic as fuck.
It sounds very problematic because it's not a very big step away from linking it to genetics and race and crime, which is something we've been dealing with for a long, long time. And also, his justification for the person he killed is, he was a pimp.
Right. Which also, again, going back to this, okay, so he, murdered this one guy who was a pimp and he's on death row for that?
He's on death row. That's what I'm saying. It's like...
Really? Right, for killing somebody who at least undoubtedly is undoubtedly a criminal. I believe it is often the case that pimps are often violent to the women who they are responsible for. And
I'm assuming that's what they're also implying there is,
I
didn't do it to kill him. I did it to protect the women that was working for him. But at the end of the day, you still have killed the man, but you're unlikely to end up in death row.
No, I mean, that sounds like a crime of passion where he murdered a criminal. Which is not the kind of thing you're on death row for.
Yeah, because also you're not going to have DAs pushing,
especially
for the death penalty.
Especially because he can probably, it seems very plausible that he could claim defense of somebody else. Like it.
Yeah, especially also if they wanted to go with this way, right? You just make him pluralize the word, right? So you kill the man. You kill men,
right?
And he goes, yes. Pimps.
Right, because if he was going through and systematically murdering a bunch of pimps, okay, then you're basically a serial killer.
Then you can link it to the gene thing that she mentions, right? So it's linked to the serial killer gene. You had it, and even though you were justifying it to yourself, buddy, you were doing this. But no, he killed a single person. As you said, there's no such thing as justifiable homicide. Like, that's... I reject that as a notion.
I mean, but if it is actually like he's trying to keep somebody else from being killed and defends her and in the process accidentally kills this guy, like that actually I'd be like, okay.
He'd still go to prison, but he's not going to be on death row for that.
Certainly not in a situation like that's implied like this. So, okay, we learned that allegedly, at least, Sophia's mother was also killed by an assassin, but that while Cal turned to violence, she turned to science. You know, the kind of science that takes the Bible as literal truth, like all science.
Yeah, because she then explains, like, it's the apple of Eden, Cal. And if you help me find it, I'll give you a new life. And you're like, dude, come on.
Right.
It's the apple of Eden, Cal. Oh yeah, sorry. For a second there, I thought you said science. But apparently you mean Scientology, which is a slightly different thing. But it's just, it's weird.
Creationism is a kind of science. Teach both sides of the controversy.
Sarah, you've been in Memphis too long.
I'm not far away, actually, from the Scopes Monkey trial took place in Tennessee.
Oh my god. So, Cal gets taken to get some food, finally.
About fucking time.
And he sees all of these other prisoners.
Who are like zombies, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird. They're just kind of wandering around. And there's a few of them still seem to have their brain switched on. So we see an Asian lady who looks at him suspiciously. A weirdly effete dude Like, I'm not sure what they're trying to get at, but he has floppy hair and he kind of looks at him like in a jealous way. Like,
I don't know.
The look he gives him is definitely not anger. It's like, who's this guy coming in on my territory kind of thing? Well, okay. And then Michael K. Williams, who comes over and he's like, drops some knowledge on him or whatever. And
I was just one of those things
you're like, yeah, I bet you Baptiste or whatever is going to come in helpful. Like, these people are clearly going to be useful later on.
Yes.
And they also seem to know. Oh, sorry, that's what he calls him. He calls him Pioneer.
Why? Why does he call him Pioneer?
Yeah. I have no idea whatsoever. He has no idea who he is. He's never seen any of his historical lives, but calls him Pioneer anyway. But
and he's not a pioneer.
Exactly.
Like, it's not like that's his historical past.
And then the other white guy comes over and gives him an apple, and it's like, here, and they seem to know more than Michael Fassbender does. Like,
they seem to know more than I do.
They're there saying, you're going to lead them to it. Progress requires sacrifice. All this sort of stuff. You're like, what?
Why do you know all this?
Where are you getting this from? Because if you've learned it from your past lives, you would have learned it in the Animus, and they would have seen it because they see everything that you see.
Yeah, I find it very confusing.
Yeah, it is. It's genuinely weird. Like, I don't get it at all. Then he's getting fed or whatever, and then Sophia's fighting with her dad, and her dad tells her, no, we have to do this now, and she's like, oh, we have to let him become accustomed to it, you have to accept the Animus into your life. Like, it's very religious speaking. Like,
right.
She's like, you can't force him to it, he has to accept it himself.
Yeah, because now we like free will.
Yeah, exactly. But then Fassbender's busy fighting himself in a dream, and then they beat him up and bring him back to the Animus. So we get our second jump back to 1492, where Aguilar and Maria, for those of us who can't do a cool Spanish accent like Sarah, they're in prison and they're about to get burned by the Templars / Inquisition, and I believe Sarah has emboldened that slash on the notes there because she's so angry at it.
So I wrote down
they would be linked together.
I wrote down Torquemada's entire speech because it's a whole thing.
Sarah, you should definitely read it.
The Lord says, if a man abide not in me, he is cast into the fire and he is burned. For decades you have lived in a land torn apart by religious discord, started by the Christians, But soon, thanks to God and the Inquisition...
Wait, hold on a second. He did not go caused by the Christians,
No, that was my edition.
Don't you be putting words in this guy's mouth.
But soon, thanks to God and the Inquisition, we will purge this disease. The sinners before you sought to defend the heretic Prince of Granada, the last heathen stronghold in our holy war. And so today, before our king and queen, I swear that we will purify ourselves in the holy fire of God. Behold God's will. Why can't they say the word Muslim? Why aren't we allowed to say the word Muslim? Because they're
heretics, Sarah. They're heretics, not Muslims. Heretics.
Muhammad, the heretic.
Yes. They're all heretics, according to the movie. I also noticed that, again, I mentioned this to you beforehand, I've made a couple of allusions to it, there's not a single mention of any other religion, including Jews.
Oh, no. And also that the goal of the Inquisition is presented as being... I don't know, bringing down the assassins, I guess? I don't know. And, ending religious discord, as opposed to, well, actually, we forcibly converted a bunch of people to our religion, and now we're mad that they're not, okay with it and doing a good job of being Christians?
Yeah, it's weird. But it does allow us to have an excellent action scene. It's a good
action scene.
Multiple time listeners of this thing, and that's what I like about these movies. And there's something really good about seeing, even though it was filmed in 2016 and it's 10 years out of date, seeing some random parkour through a 15th century Spanish city. kind of got me going.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this from start to finish.
And it starts with he like backflips off a stake. It's fun.
He backflips off a stake like he's in some sort of Attack of the Clones movie. And he manages to escape. And it's a really long, like a genuinely well done action scene that ends with him about to take a giant leap off the top. And then he goes into convulsions because he hasn't fully accepted who he is or how he's linked to Aguilar at this point. And this is what Marion Cotillard had done. Now, even if you don't watch the rest of the movie, if you look up that action scene, genuinely as a fan of action movies, it's really, really well done. Like, everything makes sense. There's a bit where a guy rides a horse up a building on the inside, which is stupid. But then like they're chasing each other and it's good. There's loads of fight bits and there's a bit where he's pulling an arrow and knocks a dude out with his elbow. It's good. And Maria is his match in terms of athleticism, which is good.
She's excellent. She doesn't really have a personality, but she is, she's badass.
She does have a personality. Her personality is long, lingering looks.
And being dedicated to the assassins.
Yes. Love is a weakness, despite the fact that herself and Cal Aguilar are clearly in love, or at least have the hots for each other.
Yes. A thing that will never be discussed in this movie. Because then they might give Media too many lines. So back in the present, Cal is temporarily paralyzed, which is a thing that happens when you don't enter the animus of your own free will, which is also why all of the other people are like basically catatonic, is because they, I guess, went into the animus not of their own free will a few too many times, and that basically like breaks your brain. So we learned that apparently, again, now they like free will, so that she is trying to convince him that he should agree to go willingly. And then Riken Sr., Bad Dad Science Dad, talks with Aguilar and tells him that his Bad Dad Assassin Dad is here, and even gives him the blade that his father had used to kill his mother.
Yeah, because what he's trying to do is get him angry enough with the dad to get him to effectively kill the dad in cold blood and then just accept that that's who he is.
Right.
But when he goes up and talks to Brendan Gleeson, who's playing his dad, it is one of those conversations where everything is meant to have multiple meanings, and you just want to sit there and go, Brendan, now how about you do this? Rather than say, your mother's choice was to die, son, why not say, your mother was the assassin out of the two of us? She is the one that links back to Aguilar, not me. And she wanted her line to die. You were meant to be an unknown child. Alternatively, because we believed in the creed, I was meant to kill you, and I actually couldn't bring myself to do it.
Right.
And that's why I had to let you live. But your mother specifically wanted me to kill her so that nobody could go back and find this apple.
Instead, he says, the blood that flows through you is not your own. It belongs to the creed. Your mother knew that. She died so the creed may live. How is he supposed to know what the fuck he's talking about?
Hey, Cal, you never knew about the creed until yesterday, but here you go. Here's some cryptic clues for you to remember them by. Like, it's just say it. Just say, your mom asked me to kill her because she and her blood is a direct link. Not me. That's why I'm useless. Your mom was an assassin too, and she wanted to die. Cal's just there like, well, I guess I've got my own choices to make. And then goes and willingly gets into the animus.
Yes. So, back in 1490. Oh, and also there's this necklace that his mother had this necklace, and then as soon as he gives it to his father while he's being snarky. And then as soon as he goes back to 1492, Maria gives him the same necklace.
Yeah, because it's the only necklace that like any assassin would want to wear. Yeah. It's so cool.
It's the only cool necklace. Meanwhile, Torquemada arrives at the Alhambra with the prince, at which point, so it turns out that the Sultan Muhammad, in addition to ruling Granada, is also the guardian of the apple, and he gives it up at this point. The seed.
Good. Now, just quickly for the listeners at home who don't understand what Sarah just said because she's rolling those oars like she's on top of a hill and they're made out of heavy stone. Torquemada arrives at the Alhambra. Torquemada arrives at the Alhambra with the prince, and Muhammad gives up the apple. Which is what she's saying, but she's like, there's so much the Templar.
The warring populations of humanity shall all bow in perfect obedience to our one Templar rule, because Torquemada is a Templar, apparently, according to this movie.
Listen, Torquemada, he knew what he was doing. And yes, apparently he was part of the Templars.
An order that was disbanded a century and a half before he was born.
You don't get it, Sarah. They are now a secret order of Templars.
They're not a secret. He's yelling about it every 5 fucking seconds in front of the King and Queen of Spain.
The King and Queen of Spain know what's good for them, and that's to
There's
not get on the bad side.
He's yelling about it in front of the entire city of Seville.
Listen,
there's not a secret.
If any of them have a hassle, he'll just get them kicked out of the country. Like, that's what he'll do. Torquemada knows what he's at.
They're really not secret. Everybody knows. Everyone knows.
Anyway, so the secret organization, the Templars, they get the apple, and Aguilar and Maria, yeah, Aguilar and Maria, they arrive to attack and recover the apple. I can't do it there, right? And in the middle of the fight, Maria gets caught, obviously in order to be killed. That's why she's there. It's literally her entire function.
We're not doing great on the ifft test, are we?
No. At least this is the second lady with a name who just got murdered.
Yep.
And yeah, that's it. So she gets killed directly in front of Aguilar, and he then gets beaten up by Ojeda. Actually, that wasn't too bad.
That was good.
I was going to say Ojeda as it's spelled, but Ojeda. And he gets beaten up, but as he's lying on the ground, Maria reaches over to hold his hand, and then he uses her crossbow built into her wrist guards to shoot Ojeda, and then that's how he ends up killing him. Because
it's so nice when women die and inspire men to do acts of violence. That really is what women are for.
If anything, that's what our genetic memories are telling us.
Yeah, right. That women are for dying to inspire men.
But that's what happens. And then Aguilar gets caught on a bridge, and we're like, oh, what's happened here? He's not going to be able to escape. But we're in another situation where he's up on top of something very high, and now when he jumps, he makes the full connection between himself and Cal in the past, present, and future. So Cal and Aguilar are one. So effectively, he's broken the animus. But because
and also can fly.
Fate, yeah. So the animus has been jumping and moving him around in real space in the future, but now he doesn't need the animus to connect with his history.
Yes, but I'm more worried about why his historical self can fly.
Well, he couldn't fly. He jumps and he lands in the river down below.
He is soaring and gliding. That is not a way a human can jump.
It is. He falls perfectly natural. And in the video game, these are called leaps of fate, where you jump off and you land in haystacks to hide yourself from the Templars who are coming out to get you. I had a lot of fun killing multiple Templars in that game, and then jumping off buildings to land in haystacks, and then just lie there. And you're thinking, surely they'll look in the haystack. Nope. No, they won't. I'm just hidden in that haystack. But so he does this leap of fate, and it basically forms the bond between him. So even though the animus breaks in a kind of an hilarious way, because it's just like the power of the connection between them or whatever.
It's too much. The whole point of this machine is to connect them, but now they're too connected. We can't handle it.
They're too connected. We can't control this. But they see him talking to Christopher Columbus in the past, and they figure out
fucking
Christopher Columbus, good guy apparently. So
Columbus is the hero.
He was going. He took the apple to America, where he did nothing bad.
I'm literally clenching my fists while sitting here. I was offended by this movie.
And then he came back and he's buried in Sevilla because they're in Cadiz, I think. And they come back
Madrid.
and Madrid, yeah. No, but they're in Cadiz when he's talking to. I think they're in Cadiz when he's talking to Columbus.
Well, but I think it's before Columbus goes to the New World. And actually, I'll talk about this later, but Columbus's remains actually kept getting moved back and forth. Like, so he was originally buried, I think, somewhere actually in the New World. Anyway.
Ooh. Yeah. So what happens is they can see him talking to Columbus, and they know that then Columbus had the apple. So then they figure out where's Columbus buried. He's buried in Madrid. In Seville, sorry. And I knew it was Seville. Yeah, so have I. It's lovely. But
that's where you go if you want to spit on Columbus's grave.
Because he's now linked one with the memories, they figured out that it's Columbus, and then they're able to figure out that that's where the apple is going to be, so they're going to go get it. The other assassins in the Abstergo building, they stage a rebellion while Fassbender is talking to all of his ancestors. Now,
yes.
I was a little bit weirded out by this because some of them were clearly him, but some of them also looked like they weren't his particular family.
I found that very unclear, yes. I was not sure if it was just like a lot of assassins or if it was specifically his ancestors. I mean, I know his mother is there at some point.
His mother's there at the end, and after Brendan Gleeson gets killed, his dad shows up.
Right, yeah, so it's clearly dead assassins.
But another thing that popped into my head was, I'm fairly certain one of the assassins they see is Marion Cotillard, i.e. implying that her mother may have been an assassin.
Interesting.
And that's why, and maybe she was killed by the Templars and she's the adopted child of Jeremy Irons because she's only a little kid.
Well, or that it's an illicit assassin-Templar marriage.
Exactly. Something like that is going on. But I'm still not certain because everyone's so blurry you can't really tell. But I was almost convinced that the last person to reveal their mask before his mom was somebody who was exactly the same as Marion.
Fascinating.
Cotillard. And then she gets pulled away before that person comes out, so she wasn't there to see that was her mom.
Yeah.
But that's why I think he doesn't kill her at the end. So he walks up with her, and then because realistically he should shank her.
I thought it was just because she was like, okay, I thought it was just because he was like, well, you were nice-ish.
But that's what, again, she wasn't really nice-ish.
Oh, no.
She created the machine. She's part of the Templars. And at this point, he is to believe that she is full Templar blood. So there's no reason for him not to shank her and walk. Yeah. Because she can create the animist at any stage.
Right, yeah. I mean, I assume she just needs funding, essentially, to be able to put it back together.
Exactly. So, but anyway, the assassins rebel. They beat up and kill everybody in the building, which is also a weird thing to see because the assassins all have killing weapons and the guards all appear to have cattle prods.
Yeah, they've got like tasers.
Tasers. So I know they're not going to do nice stuff to the assassins if they get them, but it's also weird to be cheering for the guys with bows and arrows shooting men running at them with cattle prods.
Everything is permitted, Ollie. Everything is permitted.
I know, it's just such a weird dynamic to be like, actually, yeah, these guards have no chance. These are highly trained murderous people with killing weapons, and you're running at them with effectively mace. And yeah, you're running at them with mace, and they're holding an actual mace. Like, one of you is going to get killed here.
Right.
And it turns out that the other white dude gets killed because we've now got the three assassins that are left alive are Michael K. Williams, the Asian lady who is not given a name, I think, at any stage in the movie, and our white guy. So, we're covering all the races, Sarah.
All of them. So yeah, so it's the two of them and Michael Fassbender, and unfortunately Michael Fassbender is the only one who's shirtless, which is really too bad because Michael K. Williams, as I know from The Wire, looks pretty good shirtless.
He looks
Omar forever.
Yeah, Omar coming.
When you come at the king, you best not miss.
Then the Rikins flee to get away in their helicopter. Michael Fassbender stands ominously on top of a building looking at them.
I was like, is he going to jump or something? But he doesn't.
Yeah, I genuinely thought for a second that as they're flying off in the helicopter, he was going to make a real world leap of faith. And I was looking at him going, no, Michael Fassbender, you don't come down from the above a helicopter. That's not the way to success. Come from below a helicopter, some chance. Come from above, you're jumping into a blender, son. Don't do that. But he doesn't. He just stands there and looks like creepy thing. And then I assumed the final set piece would be in Seville.
But we're only there very briefly. Yeah, they just basically grab the apple and go.
Yeah. And then the horny older lady's like, you will get your due soon, Marion Cotillard. Perhaps in my chambers later.
She's clearly hitting on her, and it's such a weird choice.
She definitely is. You'll get your due later. Then her dad talks about her getting a Nobel Peace Prize, and again, I'm sitting there going, she would have every Nobel Prize for the last 20 years. If she would have Nobel Prizes in genetics, she would have Nobel Prizes in physics, in chemistry, in biology, like all of these things.
There isn't one in history, is there? Because like historians would fucking love this.
I tell you what, if they found a way, if she had created a way to link back into the genetic memories and you could live the life of your ancestors, 100% they would create an award for her.
Yes.
And go, here you go, it's the Nobel Prize in history. Well, this is the first person who's getting it. Oh, no. You're the only person who's getting this. Nobody's ever we're literally calling it the Marion Cotillard Award.
She's just not president in the movie. Not of the United States, the world. Marion Cotillard is just president of the world now.
It's mind-blowing levels of science. And then he's like, oh, you'll get a Nobel Peace Prize. Nobel Peace Prize? A couple of assholes in Northern Ireland have Nobel Peace Prizes. And I don't even mean this about, I've met John Hume. He's a Nobel Peace Prize. He's a dick, right? President Obama, he's got a Peace Prize.
He does.
He's got a Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, he didn't invent a machine that can allow you to live your lives of your ancestors. Anyway, Peace Prize.
So all this happens at the, quote, Grand Templar Hall in London, which, by the way, is actually the Freemasons' hall, because there obviously isn't an 18th century Templar hall in London because there aren't any fucking Templars. My God.
It's also for a secret order. They have the world's biggest Templar crosses on top of this building.
And they're having a giant party.
Templar crosses.
Again, in this movie, the Order is not secret. It's like a weird alternative universe where the Templars were never disbanded and also are the Inquisition.
And they're secret.
They're not secret. They can't be secret. They're the least secretive organization I've ever seen.
I'm sorry, Sarah. I just watched a movie where they're a secret organization. They all wore black robes going to that meeting.
Yeah, but then they walked under like a spotlight in their black robes into that meeting.
Yeah, under a spotlight that was reading their genetic codes, because apparently we can do this now.
They walked down a red carpet.
A red for the colour of the Templar cross. Like, Sarah, all of this makes perfect sense to anybody who's played the game. 55 hours of my time.
Okay.
But it's such a weird scene. They're not carding people as they walk in. It's just like you wear the black mask, walk on in. And the guys come in and there's some sort of, we've hitting our weapons between ourselves.
Right. Because there's no metal detector.
No, the assassins have a really cool, but that's the thing, is there is a metal detector, but they make, so the assassins have this cool knife that comes out of their wrist, like at a wrist guard, but they break it down and then spread it between the three of them so that there's not a suspiciously high amount of metal. So it's on the back of somebody's mobile phone for part of it. Her blade is kept inside her purse. Michael K. Williams has a bit on his belt, so when the alarm goes off, he shows them his belt, and they're like, oh yeah, that's your belt, good job. Never bothered to ask him who he was, why he was there. Just get in. And then we get this scene where the Rikens are talking to each other, and again, they seem to be on the same page as each other.
Well, she seems shocked to learn that actually he wants to bring down the assassins and doesn't really want to end violence.
But he does want... He wants to end violence. but in a localized way. Whereas she seems to be the more evil version. Like,
Right, she wants to mind
thing
control the entire population.
Yeah, this is what I don't get. Is she's like, we can remove all violence from the world, right? And he's like, actually, we're just going to remove it from the assassins because they're our enemy, and then the Templars can be the rulers at this point, and there's nobody going around killing us anymore. And she's like, oh my god, it's just to bring down the assassins? But what about everyone else? And he's like, they'll just listen to us. So in reality, she is the one who's the more evil. Like,
right, because she wants to completely destroy human free will.
Yeah. And that's why, again, I think when Fassbender meets her, because he's got the knife, and I assumed that he was going to walk along, and that was a clear stab in the stomach and let her slowly die moment.
Right.
And he stops and they have a little chat, and there's no frisson, there's no like, oh, they're going to get it on kind of thing.
Right. They really don't have romantic tension, because at first I sort of assumed they would, and they didn't.
Yeah, they just have a chat, and then he's like, whatever, and then walks on past her, and she stands there and doesn't go in and stop him from killing her dad.
Right.
Like, as if that was her choice, is not to kill her dad. Which is, or sorry, not to stop him killing her dad. But if her entire thing is about violence, that's a crime of omission. Like, if you have the chance to kill, if you know something is about to happen and you don't stop it when you can stop it, you're criminally liable. Like, you're as responsible as the person who doesn't. Like, if I see you with a gun and I have the opportunity to take the gun off and you say, actually, I'm going to go in and kill this 7-year-old, and I go,
cool, have fun.
Well, I'm just going to step back and not stop you. Like, I'm as responsible as you are at that point for killing that 7-year-old.
She basically says, cool, have fun.
That's effectively what she does. Like, oh, go on ahead, slit that old man's throat. So, again, that's why I think when he comes up and he's talking to her, I think he knows that she's... Like, if that was her mom we saw, he knows that and she doesn't. So that's why he lets her live, because I think she thinks she's about to die.
Right.
And then he walks past. But
she still then doesn't do anything to save her father.
And that's what I'm saying is, there's nothing that he does, that she does in the movie, that would make him think she's a good person.
No.
Like, even with her standing up for him, once he's learned the full history of the Templars, or not the Templars, of the assassins, she is his natural enemy. So unless, as I said, he knows that possibly she is from the same bloodline as him, or from the same side of the conflict as him, I don't see why he wouldn't have killed her. I would have killed her.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes sense, because the only other thing that would have made sense is if they were trying to do like a romantic subplot, but it really, I just don't actually see that in the film.
Yeah, there's definitely no subtext of romance between them. But he goes in, Jeremy Irons is holding up the apple, which looks like something from... It looks like one of the MacGuffins from The Fifth Element, if you've ever seen The Fifth Element.
I actually haven't. But yeah, it's sort of glowing.
It's a glowing orb with lines on it, and then he's holding it in the air while all of the Templars are watching, and Cal just jumps up from behind him and slits his throat. And then we get Marion Cotillard walks in and is like, I did this, which is linking back to what the older lady had said before, the Grand Master or whatever, and she's like, I did this. Did she let it happen? Is that what she's implying, because she didn't stop it? But then she's like, we will get the apple, and I want Cal for myself.
And I found it very unclear at this point, because she did make the decision to let him kill her father. I was like, is she just putting on a front? Does she actually feel guilty and think that she did the wrong thing? I did not find that clear.
Assumed this is a setup for a sequel.
Yes,
and the setup was going to be, she is going to become the big guy.
Bad.
But anyway, that's the end of the end of the movie is actually, it cuts away from the police going into where the murder had happened, and then it cuts to our three friends standing on top of the I think it's the Liberty Insurance building in London, looking at the London Eye, just standing on top of it, like,
Yeah. And I will
This is
note
us. We're here.
that Calva, well, they obviously take the apple and replace it with like a regular apple, which is pretty funny considering that otherwise Cal has literally zero sense of humor.
I think he replaces it with the original apple that he got in. It looks exactly the same as the one that he was given.
It can't be the same though. That's been like weeks. That apple would be like rotting by now.
Listen, it's a very special apple. Assassins are able to keep them fresh. And that's it. That ends the movie. So I think we should get on to find out what this movie got right. Okay. And what it got wrong in a section that Sarah lovingly calls Where It Falls So.
Oh my god. I have so many thoughts. Okay.
All right. I thought you were like, oh my god, that was beautiful singing.
That was
no,
beautiful.
you've got thoughts, whatever.
Okay, so I have a few things that I'm going to highlight here, and but then there's of course some stuff that I'm going to save for the next section. So I'll start by saying something that they did technically get right, which is they refer to Sultan Muhammad. Muhammad XII is indeed the last ruler of Nasrid Granada. This is approximately where the accuracy of the history of the depicted conquest of Granada ends. More on that later. But they got the name of the ruler of Granada, right? That's something.
Excellent, yeah.
They got the Templar cross right. That is, however, where the history of the Knights Templar, the accuracy of the history of the Knights Templar ends, since they were formally disbanded by the Pope Clement V in 1312. That is 180 years prior to this movie. And also, by the way, one of the many reasons that Dante was like, oh, Clement, he's going to be in hell.
Would you say that he carried out Order 66 on them?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
Or well,
I think he did.
He/Philip IV, and the fun thing, and this is probably where some of the kind of mythology surrounding the Templars comes from, is that Jacques de Molay, as he was being executed, said to, I believe, to Philip and Clement that like both of you will die within a year, and then they did. So like that's pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
So there were some Templars who, on an individual level, survived and ended up joining other military orders. And in Portugal, they actually sort of developed something called the Order of Christ, which included a lot of ex-Templars. But there's not a functioning military order known as the Knights Templar after 1312, and they sure as fuck aren't the Spanish Inquisition. They weren't even the Inquisition when there was an Inquisition and Templars at the same time. The Dominicans are the Inquisition. In terms of church orders.
Do we know this, Sarah? Like,
yes.
You've never gone back into your family's historical records through the Animus.
I've read documents, Ollie. Documents.
Oh my god.
So many documents. Fun fact, there are actually two people active at this time who are Ojedas, who are Alonso de Ojeda. One is a Dominican friar who actually helped encourage Ferdinand and Isabella to establish the Inquisition, more on that again later, by claiming that crypto-Judaism, so basically that people who had converted to Christianity but are secretly still practicing Judaism, that it's basically a big problem in Seville, and that's one of the things that led to them establishing the Inquisition. And then there's also a cousin by the same name who participated as a soldier in the conquest of Granada and subsequently joined Columbus on his second voyage to the New World. He would then hold several governorships and develop a reputation for brutality, first by cutting off the ears of many local captives. So neither of them quite seemed the same as the Ojeda in the film, but it is worth noting that there were in fact two terrible people named Ojeda active in this period.
Yeah, and they both seem like absolute scumbags.
Yes, there are two just absolute pieces of shit named Ojeda. So there's this painting that is described as being the painting of the Inquisition. It's described as Francisco Rizzi's Grand Inquisition 1492. And it is actually a real painting, and it's really by somebody named Francisco Rizzi, but it is off on the subject. So looking at the painting, I could immediately tell, all right, that's not a 15th century painting, certainly. It might be depicting whatever it's depicting, but it clearly is a 17th century painting. Anyway, I was right. It is a 17th century painting. It was completed in 1683 and can today be found in the Museo del Prado in Madrid. And it depicts not the 1492 Inquisition, but a 1680 auto da fe, so basically a public ceremony condemning heretics that took place in the Plaza Mayor of Madrid, presided over by young King Carlos and his mother, Carlos II, and his mother, Mariana of Austria.
Now, there's really something interesting about this is I have watched this movie, like jokingly recently, but I've actually watched it twice in the last 5 days. Didn't notice that picture either time, even though it is clearly mentioned, it gets its own little subtitle as what Grand Inquisition is. Didn't spot it both times. The fact that Sarah can, in all honesty, say, I saw that painting and said to myself, that shit is 17th century. And I didn't even notice there was a painting until I read this note. I was like, there's a painting in the movie? Now I know exactly where it appears and in what scene it's in, but it's just, oh yeah.
This is the shit I look
not
for.
Sarah. This is clearly 17th century. What the hell?
That's not
Let's
the
roll.
only...
Sorry, 17th century.
It's also not the only thing that's clearly 17th century. So they have all this whole bit where they're parkouring through Seville. And they have avoided anything that's really overtly modern, but I kind of get the sense that whoever was responsible doesn't actually know the difference between medieval and 16th, 17th century neoclassical, because there's a lot of stuff that is...
Most people don't know that.
Well, I do.
Genuinely. No, I know you. What I'm saying is, I would say that if you were to show anything from that thing to your average person,
yes,
they're not going to have a clue the difference. The only reason I really know is because you've explained it to me painstakingly several times.
Yes. So yes, it's a kind of detail that most normal people don't notice, but I notice, and I need to comment on it being wrong. But I will note that they do overtly include a representation of La Giralda. So this is this big tower that he jumps off at some point, I think during the scene right before he's about to be, or when he gets away from being burned. And
it's the one where he goes into, it's his first leap of faith attempt, and it's when he goes into spasm and ends up paralyzed for a second.
Right, so it's the one that knocks him out of the animus and paralyzes him. So La Giralda is an Almohad era former minaret that was built in Seville, and then Seville gets conquered by the Christians in 1248. And at first they basically just keep the mosque and just say it's a church now. But it ends up, basically it kind of falls into disrepair, and then there's an earthquake, and nobody's really making that much of an effort to keep it in good condition. So basically at some point they kind of knocked down what remains of it and built the current cathedral in the 15th and into the early 16th century. But they kept this one minaret to be used as the Bazi bell tower. So it's this,
awesome.
I think... I'm trying to remember the last day, I think early 13th century minaret that is now still part of the fabric of the current cathedral.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, and it's gorgeous. I highly recommend that you go to the cathedral and look at La Giralda, and then go inside and spit on the graves of Columbus and Ferdinand and Isabella.
Don't spit on graves, people. I mean, no, figuratively, yes, but don't actively do it.
Yeah, probably don't actively do it, but think about it.
You know,
think about it.
Dr. Ifft Decker has done it.
Okay, I haven't, but my mom actually literally has, spat on the arch of Titus.
Oh my god. Beth Greenfield.
Greenfeld. She'll be really mad at you if you get it right, if you get it wrong.
Oh, I want her to be mad at me for saying it that way.
The Apple of Eden. We need to discuss the Apple of Eden.
That thing that it's the MacGuffin we've all been looking for in our lives.
So I do just want to note that there's no evidence that I could find, at least, that this was ever something that people were looking for or claimed to hold as a relic at any point during the Middle Ages. And it doesn't really make sense, right? Because, as I was saying before, if you read the text, the point is that, they ate it. So it wouldn't just be lying around. But, fun fact, I would like to note that not everybody would necessarily agree that it is specifically an apple. So the idea that it's an apple is probably basically a Latin pun, because the word for apple, malum, sounds a lot like the word for evil, malum. Basically, the only difference is that it would be a long A versus a short A. So, so that's probably where the idea of it being an apple came from. If you actually look at the Hebrew original, since that's the real language that the real part of the Bible was written in, the Hebrew just literally translates to fruit. And Jewish commentators apparently varyingly suggested that it was a grape, wheat, or a banana. And I really want the version of this movie where they just replace the apple of Eden.
The banana of Eden.
The banana. And the entire thing is just them looking for the sacred fucking banana.
Find a banana. Like, I mean, we all know that the banana of Eden is something else entirely, Sarah.
I mean, they sexualize that a lot already, so I think it actually would make sense. Also,
this is a question I have, because
yes.
I'm not sure if you're bringing it up in the next section. Have people been actively looking for the apple of Eden at any stage in history?
No, I don't think so.
It just doesn't seem to make any sense whatsoever.
No, that's not a thing. The point is that they ate it. There's something to look for. And so it's depicted often. There are a lot of paintings representing it, but nobody's looking for it. Also, speaking of paintings representing it, I would like to note, in terms of other possible interpretations for what the fruit in the Garden of Eden is, there is an abbey in France, Plancourt Abbey, which has a 13th century fresco, in which the apple of Eden, or the fruit of Eden, looks a great deal like a mushroom.
Yeah, let's eat the mushroom. It just doesn't. Oh, here, like, take a bite of this. It's delicious, Adam. Oh, Eve, you're spoiling me with this mushroom.
Earthy.
Oh, disgusting.
Mushrooms are great.
There's one thing we passed over that you mentioned above is about abstergo program, and abstergo means to cleanse.
Yeah, it means like Latin. I cleanse in Latin. Actually, the Latin is actually abstergeo, so they've kind of left out a letter. But I don't know. In the grand scheme of things, close enough, I guess. I
think it's close enough, because the idea is that the entire project is to clean the assassins from underneath the Templars. So, and it's
interesting.
Fair play to the game for doing that. I didn't realize that Abstergo is part of the game. So cool.
Yeah, and I cleanse is the translation that the game uses. Probably the translations that I found looking in my several Latin dictionaries that I have in my home, where I wipe away or I remove something unpleasant. Which are a little less pithy than I cleanse, but get at the same thing, obviously, and fit in with the aims, clearly.
So you're several Latin dictionaries, but you don't have a copy of the good book.
I have copies of the better part of it.
I rest my case.
And I do have a copy that has the New Testament. It's just on campus.
Yeah, on campus.
Keep
that out of my home, she says.
Exactly. Keep Jesus out of this home. Jesus has no place here.
Can I add something to the vera e falso?
Of course.
So, near the end, Jeremy Irons is talking to his daughter, and it's when he reveals his plan, and she's upset about it, but he asks her for an opening to his speech, and she says, today I am become death, destroyer of worlds, which is... it's a quote from Hal Oppenheimer, who was the guy who was the head of the Manhattan Project. And apparently he was shocked that the nuclear weapon he was developing was used as a weapon, right? And it's attributed to him. But what I find interesting about this is that, yes, it is a quote, and it is a very famous quote from Oppenheimer. After the Manhattan Project was finished, Oppenheimer was obviously very famous in America up until the mid-50s. And then he was effectively accused of being a Red So a commie. So he was caught up in McCarthy trials, and when there gave up a bunch of his colleagues as possible commies to cover for himself, right? So he snitched on other people, including possibly falsifying information to make himself look better for his government. So I just think it's interesting that she chose to quote Oppenheimer.
Interesting.
And then the very next thing she does is effectively take her father's place as the head of the Templars. So it's interesting that I didn't know my thing that I developed to specifically go back and read people's history so that I can find the apple of Eden and control everybody's free will. I didn't know that was going to be used for evil.
I didn't know that was going to be bad. What?
So I just think it's funny that it's linked that's the lyric, that's the famous quote that it chose there. It's not what I would have chosen at that point, but yeah.
So that's interesting. So at this point,
and that brings us to this bit, Sarah,
Yeah.
which is where you get to actually school us on something that happened. So this section is called Historia et Veritas. And we're talking about 1492.
Yeah,
the best year.
This is a section where y'all are lucky that I'm not literally just like reading that I'm not literally just reading like 12 pages of documents out of a book.
I saw them. She had a lot of primary sources earlier.
I have so many primary sources.
It was impressive. I mean, the fact that she doesn't own a Bible, less impressive.
I own it.
Primary sources. She got a lot.
And also, I will say, by the way, for anybody who is interested in learning more, one place, at least the place where I accessed my primary sources in this particular case are Olivia Remy Constable, an excellent and unfortunately deceased, died much too young scholar of the medieval Iberian Peninsula. She has a source book called Medieval Iberia, Readings from Christian, Muslim, and Jewish Sources, which is excellent and relatively affordable. I think maybe about $25, like cheap enough that I make my students buy it. So if you're interested in reading a wide variety of primary sources on the medieval Iberian Peninsula, but in particular there's a number of them on 1492, great source to look at. So first, a bit of background before we get into 1492. As I think I've mentioned previously on this podcast, in the year 1391, there are waves of massacres that spread across the Iberian Peninsula, and so in particular in the kingdoms of Castile and Aragon. So these are the two largest Christian-ruled kingdoms, and this is a point at which Spain is not a meaningful political entity. There is no such thing, there's no such kingdom as Spain. Mm-hmm. That at least begins to change in the year 1469 with the marriage between Isabella of Castile and Ferdinand of Aragon. So Isabella then actually becomes queen in 1474 and he becomes king in 1479. And so this begins the process of at least bringing the two kingdoms under the rule of a single monarch or kind of pair of monarchs at this point. They actually do maintain somewhat separate legal systems for a long time, but they do have a kind of shared ruler.
Is there any chance that Ferdinand of Aragon was related to Tristan of Aragon?
Almost certainly, yes.
Tristan and Isolde.
Well, actually, probably not, because I feel like Tristan of Aragon is probably coming from the period before the rulers of Aragon are the Castilian Trastamara dynasty, which they would be by this point. So I'm going to say, only very distantly.
Oh, damn. I was hoping it was Tristan's cousin.
So they're running things. And in 1478, they basically managed to convince the Pope Sixtus IV, to issue a decree, a papal bull, which allows for the establishment. Papal bull is a funny phrase, isn't it?
Papal bull is a funny phrase, but I'm laughing at the idea that the Sixtus IV.
It is annoying,
surely
isn't it?
Don't. Yeah, I'm Sixtus the Fourth.
Yep.
How many Sixtuses were there in the end, Sarah?
That's a good
I'm going to guess
question.
9.
I actually don't know offhand. I'd have to check.
I bet it was 9. Sixtus the 9th.
It would be perfect if they actually did stop at 6, but I feel like they probably
At 6, yeah.
Or if they stopped at 5 and there was never a Sixtus the 6th.
That would be funny. And then somebody's just waiting for his chance.
Right.
So once I was going to say Benedict's gone. Once Pius or whatever he's calling himself now, Pope Francis. Once he's gone, if we get a Sixtus the in, I would love it.
The current Pope, I believe, actually, Pope Francis is, fun fact, I believe the first Pope in like a millennium or something like that to come up with his own, or to come up with a new Pope name. That previously, for a long time, they just like had. There are 8 popes, Sixtus.
Oh, I was close.
Oh, wait. No. Okay, I don't know. The site is being weird. Okay. So, Sixtus IV, in 1478, issues a papal bull that allows for the establishment of a specifically local inquisition in the Iberian Peninsula. So one that's going to be basically under the control of the monarchs and under the Grand Inquisitor, whom they appoint, Tomás de Torquemada, who also, fun fact, is himself of Converso ancestry, who is somebody who is descended from one of these probably forced converts from Judaism to Christianity. And the whole rationale behind the Inquisition, or behind what we call the Spanish Inquisition, is the idea that they have a particular local problem that other places don't have because they had these mass conversions back in 1391, and now all of those people's descendants, at least so they fear, are still secretly practicing Judaism, and they need to stamp that out. So that is our prelude. And at this point, I'll go in roughly chronological detail in through a few events of 1492. So first, the conquest of Granada. So going back to the Islamic conquest of the Iberian Peninsula back in the 8th century, there had been parts of the peninsula that had been under Muslim rule, but by the mid-13th century, there's actually only one Muslim-ruled kingdom left, and that is the Emirate of Granada, which we have, of course, mentioned previously. So centered around the city of Granada, and so its, of course, most famous site, the Alhambra, is a palace built by members of the Nasrid dynasty that is ruling in Granada. So this Muslim dynasty. But, okay, so this movie like invents this whole thing about the conquest of Granada, with like this whole thing with this like kidnapped child, which is just like nothing. Really, it's just that there had been like an 8-month siege, and like people were starving, and there also been like a decade basically of like on and off campaigns, and it's not like basically they're just like they just give up. Like they're the last, like they don't have a lot of allies. They've been under siege for a really long time. It looks like it's not going to happen. So,
what sort of population are we talking about at the time? Like how many Muslims were in I can't remember what word you just used to describe the area of Granada.
The Emirate.
The Emirate, yeah. So what population of Muslims were we talking were holding out during this 8-month siege?
So the siege is really of the city itself, and there also would have been people of the surrounding countryside. But that is a good question. I actually don't know what the population of Granada would have been offhand, but like it's a decent sized city. I mean, so it is, as I said, I don't remember the numbers offhand, but it's a decent sized city, which means it's hard to feed. And I mean, that's almost always, I mean, so as I said, I don't know the numbers, but like, that's almost always, why at some point, siege, I mean, that's why siege warfare works, is because you're able to basically starve people, because you're only able to keep a certain amount of stores, especially for like a dense, highly populated city.
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was wondering is if the fact that they managed to last 8 months.
Like, that's pretty good.
That's good. Like,
Yeah.
Because a lot of city sieges were, like, obviously there are famous ones that lasted for years or whatever, but the majority of them were over in 2 months because people were running out of food and water. Yeah,
so 8 months is, I mean, that's a pretty long time to last, so it makes sense that after 8 months, at some point, they're just like, we can't do this anymore. So in late 1491, they basically agree on terms and formally make their surrender on January 2nd, 1492. And the terms that they sign, I will note, are initially pretty generous to the city's Muslim inhabitants. There's a lot of emphasis on the fact that, yes, you can still practice Islam. There are certain areas in which they're allowed, in kind of civil law areas, where they're allowed some amount of self-governance. that people, aren't going to be driven from their homes. But of course, a decade later, the Muslims of Castile and Aragon, including the people living in the former Kingdom of Granada, would indeed be told you have to either convert or get out. They at least got a decade before they had to do that, whereas the Jewish inhabitants of the Iberian Peninsula were expelled actually very shortly after the conquest of Granada. And I very much see this as being part of basically a larger effort to Christianize these kingdoms. So we've already made this progress toward Christianization from the perspective of Ferdinand and Isabella by wiping out the last vestiges of Muslim rule. And so let's now really Christianize things by making sure basically that our Christians are Christian. And the claim that's made, if you actually look at the expulsion decree, is that the reason that they're kicking the Jews out is basically because they're a bad influence.
Yeah.
Specifically on these descendants of conversos, that there's all of these people who had converted, usually to avoid dying, who had converted to Christianity rather than be murdered. So,
as you would, Sarah.
As you would, yeah, as many people would. If you were told convert to Christianity or die, I would probably convert to Christianity. But
it's just the way you said it implied they were a little bit weak in their convictions.
Oh, no, I don't mean to imply that at all. No, my point is really like, of course they're not going to be super sincere converts. Like, I would convert too, but like, would I be enthusiastic about my Christian life after that? No.
Yeah, but you'd need to be able to find ways to weed out who was still actually, Jewish under those. And that's where I believe that the Spanish introduced this idea of secret ham, where they would put ham into stuff which wouldn't usually have ham.
I remain completely convinced that this is true. That's why there's just so much ham in Spanish cuisine, is to smoke out the secret Jews and eventually also secret Muslims.
I think that guy might be secretly a Jew. Right, put some ham in your lasagna. Wait, what's lasagna? Shh, I got it from Italy. Let's just go with it.
So yeah, and that's also what the Inquisition is for. And actually, a lot of the Inquisition documents, that's one of the ways they get you, is they're like, so and so turned down a dish with pork in it. Psst, I think they're secretly a Jew. So there's a lot of stuff like that. But so that was the point of the Inquisition. But then essentially, what the point of the expulsion order is, allegedly at least, is, well, we've tried, but we just feel like there's too much happening on the part of the Jews of these kingdoms that they're basically supporting or encouraging these people who are converts to still be secretly Jewish. And so the only way we can get that to stop is by just kicking them out. So the charter gets formally signed in the end of March. It actually only gets issued a month after that, which basically then gives them 3 months to get the fuck out. So basically, yeah, in 3 months you have to leave your home where you and your family have probably lived for centuries. The whole system was really also designed to be extremely financially abusive and to basically pressure / otherwise get them to leave the people who are wealthy to leave a lot of their wealth behind. All pretty fucked up.
And when the Jews were encouraged to move out and move to another place, what happened to their land after they were gone? So
in some cases they actually basically managed to, they were all scrambling to sell their property. But because everybody knew that they were in a time crunch, basically all of it got sold for fraction of what it was worth. So basically a bunch of Christians bought land at a fraction of what it was worth from these Jews who were, wanted something at least because they knew they had to get out. And the synagogues also were turned into churches. Yeah. And I think anything that and I think it is the case that anything that didn't get sold, I think reverts to the crown, who, then can distribute it amongst whoever they would like to distribute it. So basically fuck this movie, because there are actual victims of the Inquisition and of Torquemada and of Ferdinand and Isabella who get completely erased by this film.
It's genuinely, like, I was joking with Sarah before we began recording. I was like, I'm reading through your notes, Sarah. You seem incredible. Like,
I'm
these are the
offended by
angriest
this
notes I've
movie.
ever read since Kingdom of Heaven, where there was just swear words every second or third sentence. But as I was, look, I was there going, is it, like, jokingly, I was like, is it because they don't mention Jewish people at all? And then I realized it's not even a joke for me to say that. Like,
Yeah.
obviously myself and Sarah are really good friends, and I mess around and we make jokes like this all the time. And, you know, she can talk about how her people killed my God. And I go, Sarah, don't say it like that. But it's true.
And I'm like, well, he deserved it.
But the actual Jewish erasure in this movie is palpable. Like,
yeah,
the Inquisition, we were going after the assassins.
Yeah, it's like, no, you were going after people who had the descendants of people who had been forced at the point of a sword to convert to a religion they had no interest in converting to, and then just like wanted to practice the religion they had always wanted to practice, and are doing so in secret, and are then being, you know, attacked and killed for secretly trying to practice their faith. And then, you know, the people who had remained Jews, unless they're found to have overtly been, quote, Judaizing, so basically overtly in some way encouraging crypto-Judaism among the converts, that's the only case in which the Inquisition is actually targeting people who are still Jews. But that's the point of then the expulsion order, is to say, well, actually, like, anybody who's a Jew, we feel like you're probably a bad influence on these converts, so you too, you know, so you have to convert or leave.
Yeah, it's insane that it's completely and utterly immoral in every way, shape, or form, and yet because they were the people deciding what gets to be moral or not,
right?
It's okay. Like, it's
and as I said, I'm very angry about the fact that there are like thousands of real people who are like the actual victims of the Inquisition, which has a prominent role in this film, and those real people are completely erased in favor of this like imaginary creed.
Yeah.
The other thing, by the way, I will say that I'm angry about and offended by in this film has to do with the event that, of course, most normal people associate with the year 1492. When I think 1492...
the expulsion of the Jews.
That's what I think when I think 1492. I know most normal
it's the
people...
first thing that pops into my head.
Yeah, I know most normal people think Columbus. I know that's what normal people think. I think Granada... I think the conquest of Granada...
That's what most normies think.
But the standard thing that people who are not, you know, medievalists, and in particular medievalists working on like Jews in medieval Iberia, what they think of as the voyage of Columbus. So this voyage was formally authorized not too long after the signing of the expulsion order, so in April of 1492, and so this is at this point about 3 months after the conquest of Granada. And so Ferdinand and Isabella signed the Capitulations of Santa Fe, which authorize and fund Columbus's proposed voyage to the Indies, right? So he's going to the Indies in hopes to kind of bypass the Muslim middlemen. And so basically, again, this is about like, why should we, Christian Spain, why should we be dependent in any way or beholden in any way to Muslims? We should get our own route. And that was, of course, Columbus's goal, was to access the profitable, these kind of profitable areas where they could be involved in the spice trade in particular, without having to go through Muslim territory and Muslim middlemen. And of course, in practice, it resulted in the European discovery of the New World.
Mm-hmm.
And also, by the way, the agreement is called the Capitulations of Santa Fe because it was actually signed. It was signed in a town called Santa Fe, which is actually in the Kingdom of Granada, or what had been the Kingdom of Granada.
And not Santa Fe, the capital of New Mexico.
No, because that didn't exist. I mean, because that was presumably named after that other Santa Fe.
Yeah.
And also, of course, the name Santa Fe, which means Holy Faith, would have been a town name that would have been, I don't actually know the history of the town of Santa Fe, but that clearly is a name, at least it's either a new town or it's a town that's given that's renamed that by the Christians, because that's obviously not what the Muslim people living there would have called anything.
Yeah.
Because it means holy faith in Spanish. Yeah. So Columbus would then go on to slaughter and enslave the population of the New World. He certainly at least permitted his fellow conquistadores to rape indigenous women, if not also do so himself very possibly, but certainly permitted his fellows to do so. And, of course, basically brings the Inquisition across the Atlantic Ocean. He's bringing over some Dominican priests at various points who might have actually been involved in starting to set up the Inquisition. And even if he's not necessarily directly doing so himself, he's obviously facilitating ultimately the conditions. And so the Inquisition will continue to operate not only in the Iberian Peninsula, but for centuries in Mexico and in other Spanish-ruled territories in North Central and South America. So in conclusion, fuck Christopher Columbus, and also fuck this movie for implying that Christopher Columbus is a hero.
Yeah, it's just such a weird
Friend
choice.
Of the assassins.
Like Columbus is. I'm trying to think of what the best way to describe this is, right? Everybody knows who Columbus is. Like you can't go to a kid over the age of 7 in Ireland who has no connection to Columbus, has no connection to America, probably wouldn't be able to find Spain. Actually, we probably would. Irish children are good at geography, but
Spain's
they
like
will tell you exactly. If you say who is Columbus, they know it's the guy who discovered America, right? Like they'll get this, but everybody now knows the true facts, or the majority of people know some sort of inkling about what actually went on there.
Yeah.
Like nobody, realistically, nobody should be wandering around going, "Oh, Columbus, what a hero! He did it for altruistic reasons. He did it for money, and then when he got there, he was a cunt." Not a word I use very often, but I'm going to use it right now.
Yeah.
An absolute fucking cunt.
Yeah.
And the fact that he is in any way held up as a hero in this situation, it's ridiculous. Yeah, I 100% agree with you.
I was going to say, especially,
literally could have picked anybody.
Yeah.
Pick Ferdinand.
Yeah.
Like,
oh god, that would have been a bad look too.
Sorry, Ferdinand Magellan. Sorry,
okay.
Magellan.
But especially
not King Ferdinand. Sarah.
Like, I mean, especially also because this movie's made in 2016. If it had been made 20 years before, because when I was in elementary school, we were taught pretty uncritically that, like, Columbus, like, oh, what a great explorer.
Wait, sorry, Sarah, 20 years ago, you were in elementary school?
No, 30 years. 25 years ago, I was in elementary school.
That's good, because I was about to say, 20 years ago, I was 20. Like, if you were still in elementary school, I can't be having this conversation with you on the internet. The FBI are going to come and find me.
I would have been in elementary school, like, in the 90s, basically.
Yeah, well, that's not too bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So so this movie had been made in 1996 as opposed to 2016, that was still a moment at which, like, at least in U.S. elementary schools, people were teaching fairly uncritically, just like Columbus, an explorer, good job. But even by the time I was in high school, so let's see, I would have graduated high school in 2005. So already by, the early 2000s, already, like, we're being, in a high school course. And, my high school was, like, not that overtly progressive in terms of how it taught history. And we were already being taught, like, we should think somewhat critically about the legacy of Columbus.
As you said that, I just looked up the movie 1492, Conquest of Paradise, which would have come out when you were in elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
And it has Gerard Depardieu, and, like, it doesn't paint him as a hero. It definitely does. Like, he's a heroic figure in that movie. And you're right, like, that's, 28 years ago now?
Mm-hmm.
But, like, that's the nonsense that people were spouting at the time. Like,
yep. Oh, yes. There definitely was a period at which, like, we did a lot of trash, saying that Columbus was a good guy. But by 2016, they should have known better. By 2016, obviously, there are people defending Columbus's legacy, in particular in the United States still. So actually, in my former hometown of New Haven, there was a Columbus statue that recently was taken down, like in the last couple of years. The people who are still protesting it being taken down are primarily the city's large Italian-American community, because Columbus is probably at least Italian and is therefore, treated as somebody to celebrate among certain Italian American circles. And so because of that, there was some opposition, but it still got taken down. And I would say, most Americans, at least all progressive Americans, I would say. I certainly am not going to say anything good about all Americans, but progressive Americans certainly pretty much universally would say, like, no, Columbus sucked. Like, that's not a controversial statement in many circles in the United States anymore, and wasn't by 2016.
Isn't there a movement now? Again, I could be wrong because we don't have this day, but a lot of people celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day rather than Columbus Day.
Yeah. And again, and the people who oppose that are often like Italian Americans who are like, well, but the Columbus Day parade is like our Italian Pride Day, essentially. Like, which, like, I don't know, find somebody better to celebrate who didn't commit genocide.
Yeah. Okay, find Paolo Maldini Day. He's one of the best footballers ever.
We've got lots of good people, I'm sure. I don't know, what about that? Isn't that guy who invented the radio Italian American?
Marconi.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. But I mean, Paolo Maldini.
Who's he?
He's like one of their most famous footballers of all time.
Oh, yeah, there you
Roberto
go. Celebrate
Baggio.
them.
He had a ponytail.
Oh yeah, great. Celebrate them. So yeah, celebrate the
Yeah.
Italian football players. I'm fine with that. Whatever.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like go get some soccer players.
Yeah, let's have a
up there.
parade
Maldini
on their
Day
birthday.
sounds class.
Yeah, let's have a
He
parade
was
on
also-
their birthday. I'm good with that.
He was also a beautiful man.
Yeah, let's celebrate
Yes,
that.
still
I'm
is.
fine with
Like,
that.
he's still alive. Like Paolo Maldini, I don't want people to think you're dead. You're still alive.
Yeah, on his birthday, they can have a parade.
Yeah, perfect.
Sounds good.
All right, Sarah. So in conclusion, fuck Christopher Columbus.
Yes. Fuck Christopher Columbus, fuck Ferdinand and Isabella. If you ever go to the Church of Seville, enjoy La Giralda. Metaphorically and in your heart, spit on the graves of Ferdinand, Isabella, and Columbus.
Actually do it, people. Let's get a good gobbing going on. Sarah, this next section of your podcast, which for some reason I've taken over again, which happens every fucking time I'm on the show, and every time I get a text message from at least one person going, "Hey, Ollie, you start reading out the things in order." I was like, "Yes, I know, I can't help it." Okay. So this is Fabula Nostra, where we come up with a different version of the movie or book or show, whatever it happens to be, inspired by the name. So, guest goes first, which is me. Even though I almost said which is Sarah, because I don't even have a podcast anymore. Like I don't actually have a podcast.
This is your podcast, this is your podcast in spirit.
So I said this from day one, Sarah Ifdecker, that it was not. I was merely helping out to get set up. Right. So I'm going to go with the name Assassin's Creed. I'm going to keep it as Assassin's Creed. And I am going to turn it into a book, right?
Okay.
Because there's already a video game. There's already a movie. And the reason I'm going to turn it into a book is when I was a kid, I used to read a lot. I've already mentioned David Gemmell novels on this, and he's the guy who did the Robin Hood one that has vampires and stuff in it, and he does an excellent version of a retelling of the King Arthur legend called Ghost King, which involves like magic and all this sort of stuff, right? And it's interesting. He's good. One of his main heroes is a guy called Just a Legend, and the first time I ever came across the word creed, which wasn't in church when we were forced to read out the Nicene Creed every goddamn day.
Oh, you still read that?
But
that's nice.
Oh, every day, Sarah. And they changed the wording of it recently, so sometimes older people, like myself, so we still go through with the old one, and it turns out that they've changed. Like it's just like instead of saying "and also with you," like you say something else. You don't need to get into this. Like it's just the call and response is slightly different, right? But Trust the Legend is one of David Gemmell's main heroes, and he's been in like 5 books. And one of the main things about Druss is he has a creed, right? And his creed, I'm going to read it out. It says, never violate a woman, nor harm a child. Do not lie, cheat, or steal. These things are for lesser men. Protect the weak against the evil strong, and never allow thoughts of gain to lead you into the pursuit of evil. Right? So that's Druss the Legend's creed, right? It's set in a medieval type thing, and the idea is that he is this gigantic warrior dude who has the DNA of killers in his blood because all of his ancestors had come from basically great killers. Bardon the Slayer, Brest the Axeman. These were all guys that came before him. And what had actually happened is his axe was... It had a demon in it, I believe, if I remember correctly, in the First Chronicles, Druss the Legend. And then he excised the demon. But because he was like a big, powerful dude, he followed this creed, which was to stop him from ever doing evil. And anytime evil thoughts come into his head, he read out the creed. So every time I see creed written down, I go, oh, it's creed. This is what it'll be. So now I want to write a story where there's the exact opposite of Druss, who is just a killer. And his creed is just do whatever you want. So the books or the movie and the games posit the assassins as other men are, held by their morals, but everything is permitted. That's the Assassin's Creed. Well, I want to write a story where the Assassin's Creed allows you to get away with everything, and they do. Like, they literally have zero morals. So it's an anti-hero story about a main character. I can call him Cal. Like, it doesn't make a difference because I'm never going to write this, right? But the idea is just that the main character is following the Assassin's Creed, which is do whatever you want. And he's going to take it to the logical conclusion, and he's just going to be the absolute worst human being in history, right? Now, as I'm reading this, I realize I'm probably describing Solomon Kane, which is another movie stroke show that or book series that we will probably cover on the podcast at some stage, because it's a cracking little movie. But so I want to write a story called Assassin's Creed about a guy who takes the creed of do whatever you want and everything is permitted to his logical conclusion, which is you become an evil dude, and you're not the hero. You're not even the anti-hero in the series. You're literally a scumbag. So that's what I'm going to do. I might even call it Assassin's Creed : this is what Columbus actually was.
Just have Columbus is a friend of the assassins, but just in actually
he's
like
the way
you act. Yeah, that's how Columbus is a friend of the assassins, is because he's just like, genocide's fine, right? Nobody ever said I can't commit genocide.
No, nobody said I couldn't. I'm going to give diseases to all of these people and watch them die without giving them any of the medicine we have to combat them.
Everything is permitted.
Yeah, everything is permitted. So that's what I would do. Assassin's Creed, a story about a guy who quite literally becomes the most evil person.
So I really just started by thinking about basically the ways in which I would fix this movie so it didn't make me angry. Just me personally.
This is the longest paragraph I've ever seen, Sarah. What the hell? It runs like 2 pages. What's going on?
So you still have the assassins. And you still have this modern foundation that's doing the thing where they're genetically sending people back in time or whatever. We're getting rid of the Templar stuff. The Templars they haven't existed in 700 years. There's not a secret branch of the Templars somewhere. And honestly, the Templars weren't even as interesting as everybody thinks they are. They're like a bunch of bankers. So, chill out. Instead, inspired by the link this film makes to the Inquisition, I think maybe it's some, creepy organization within the Catholic Church that is, let's say, an offshoot of the Dominican order, which is the actual order that is most heavily associated with the Inquisition. So the Inquisition is not technically a part of the Dominican order, but that most of that I would say kind of disproportionate number of inquisitors are Dominicans, and the foundation of the Dominican order was very much so, and was so the order could kind of preach against heresy, so it makes sense. But so the Dominican order, as I said, is actually the order most heavily associated with the Inquisition, with preaching against heresy, and with conversionary preaching, with preaching actively attempting to push Jews or pressure Jews into converting to Christianity. So in the medieval context, we'll have rhetoric that's actually talking about Christianization, about stamping out crypto-Judaism, about ending Islamic rule in the Iberian Peninsula, converting the remaining Jews and Muslims, make Spain Christian again. And in their attitude.
MSCA.
Yeah.
I can see the hats already.
Yep. Which is very much the ideology. I mean, so I very deliberately often don't use the term reconquista, the term that literally means reconquest, because as I often tell my students, using the term reconquest implies that there's this right that the people who are conquering have to the land. But at this point, especially if you're talking about by 1492, at that point, the Iberian Peninsula had had parts of it at least under Islamic rule for close to 800 years. And so even if you go back to, say, when the quote Reconquista started, or when it really kind of took off in the 11th century, at the late 11th century, already by then, it's an amount of time has passed that would be essentially equivalent to if we in the United States, all of a sudden the British came over and said, oh, we're reconquering America. Like, we would think that was bullshit. And so that's why the term Reconquista is bullshit, but the idea that is the idea behind the term and the ideology that you have present at the time is that the Iberian Peninsula was Christian and now should be returned to Christendom and its Christian glory and all of that. So that's going to be very overtly what they're doing in the medieval context, and actually in the modern context too. They're going to be trying to say, oh, we really want to end religious discord, but what they actually mean is that they want to end religious discord by taking away people's free will and forcibly converting them all by mind control to Catholic Christianity.
Using an apple.
Yes. Well, actually, maybe in my movie, it's a banana.
Okay, yeah. Or a mushroom.
Yeah, using the mushroom of Eden, the mind control mushroom of Eden, they're going to make everybody be Catholic.
That sounds like something from Monty Python when you say it like that. The mind control mushroom of Eden.
It does. I'm also not going to have this movie seems like it has moments at least where it wants to make the Marion Cotillard character sympathetic. I'm not having that. I'm having her just, basically, she's going to always be terrible. And it's, like, very, very clear that, like, always it's these people who essentially, they just want to, quote, end religious discord and end interreligious violence. But always what they mean by that, no matter what and where we're talking about, is that everybody just has to be turned, has to be forcibly made a Catholic Christian. This is why this movie is going to be protested by the Catholic Church. And also why it'll probably never be made.
Down with this sort of thing. Careful now. That's something that only about 8 of your listeners will get the reference to.
I also am just going to say I have one note on casting, which is that I am going to replace Michael Fassbender and his family with people who you could look at and not feel confused by the idea that you are claiming that they are of Spanish descent. I know there are blonde people in Spain. I know some, but still. So I'm going to have Cal be played by Diego Luna, and his parents are going to be Penelope Cruz and Javier Bardem.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
Also, I'm going to maybe cut out the mother being killed and give her a little more to do. Oh, also, finally, I do just want to note, I forgot to note this before. Okay, because the ifft test is really centered on medieval films, I'm going to make the argument that this movie does not pass the ifft test because in the medieval section of the film, there's only one named woman and she is dead. But my movie will.
No,
my movie will.
You can't.
Yes, I can.
Sarah.
Yes, I can.
You can't just go in medieval movie. Oh, but we're only dealing with the medieval bits.
Yes, I can.
Because Marion Cotillard's character survives.
It's my test. I can do whatever I want.
And the High Lady, Templar lady, survives.
It's my test. I can do whatever I want. And the medieval segment of this movie does not pass the ifft test. But it will in my movie. And also in my movie, I'm actually going to have, because my movie is not going to overtly erase is not going to overtly erase Jews and Muslims. I'm going to have maybe his character is kind of the Cal Aguilar character. He's at least allegedly a Christian, but that some of the people he's working with are actually going to be overtly Jewish and Muslim. So actually, maybe we'll keep Maria, but Maria is going to be somebody who Maria is her name that she had to take as a Christian, but that she is a conversa and perhaps privately goes by Miriam.
Oh, that sounds lovely. Can we keep Diego Luna's character called Callum Lynch?
Yes.
Just because. Because I'd love to see somebody who looks like Diego Luna, the beautiful young man that he is, actually answer to Callum at some stage.
Yes.
Sarah, that sounds excellent. I would watch it. And just like this movie, it would definitely pass the ifft test.
You want to watch it, but you won't be able to watch it because it's going to be banned in Ireland, so you'll have to.
It will be banned over here. We won't be able to get it. It'll join the list of other banned movies and banned books. I can't read Lolita. So anyway, sounds excellent. I would definitely watch it. So final section is Estimatio, where Sarah and the guest, which is me, give it a rating out of 5. And I think this might be the biggest difference between scores that we've ever had while discussing movies, other than jokey scores where Sarah gives a -1 to a movie, I give it a 2 or whatever, or I give a 6 stars to something Sarah lied about and said that she didn't enjoy enough, and gave it only a 4-star or whatever it was she gave 13 Warrior.
My
I can't even remember
criteria
now.
is not solely based on enjoyment. It's based on whether I think this movie is historically and gender responsible.
Just like 13th Warrior is clearly historically and gender responsible. But I am going to give this movie, and I can't believe I'm actually saying this, because for years I've never seen this until this week, and I was convinced that this was a bad movie, a terrible movie. Its Rotten Tomatoes score is 18% or something like this. And I put it on the other day. I think Sarah actually watched this before I did. In fact, you did, yeah.
Yeah.
And I had been interested in watching it because we listened to Blank Check, and one of the guys on Blank Check, their producer Ben, loves it, and then the other 2 guys from Blank Check watched it and seemed happy with it and talked about it was trying stuff, and I went, all right, I'll give this a go. And I'll be honest with you, I thoroughly enjoyed this from start to finish. It's I can see all of the problems that there are with it. It's not one of those things where I'm oh, Ollie is just blind to this because he likes it. Whereas I'm going to ignore the problems that are clearly evident in 13th Warrior because I just love that movie so much. But with this, I just think it's a legitimately good movie to watch. Historically, I 100% agree with everything Sarah's going to say about why she's taking marks off it. And I'm still going to say that's never been something that has affected me when it comes to me making my scores. And I hope that the people listening at home understand that Ollie's coming at this from, he's watching a movie, and as long as it keeps its own internal logic from start to finish, he's happy with it, even if it doesn't, hit the historical things. And there's a little bit of science in this one, so it's something for me. So I am going to give this a 4 out of 5.
Wow.
Which I think is probably a little bit too high. Even as I say it, I'm it really should be 3.75. But I will say 4 out of 5. I legitimately enjoyed this movie. I even posted about it in a Facebook group I'm in earlier, saying, okay, guys, this movie's actually good. So yeah, it's bad, but it's good. Not in a good bad way like certain other podcasts really don't make sense. It's good because I enjoyed it, and I think if you give it a watch, you might enjoy it too. But 100%, I also agree with everything Sarah's about to say now.
I will start by saying, genuinely, I think this movie has a lot that's really entertaining. And genuinely, I agree, actually, with some of the comments that they were making on Blank Check about the fact that this movie has some interesting ideas and concepts and is trying to do things that are interesting. I mean, that's why I actually kept in my imaginary movie the idea of, this animus machine and this genetic time travel kind of thing. I think that's fascinating. I think that this movie has really interesting things about it. I just cannot get past the historical issues, in part just because I'm just so angry I can't even speak. Having to say the Inquisition has brought Spain under Templar rule, it just makes me angry. It makes me so angry.
No, Sarah, finally, the Inquisition
brought
has
Spain
brought
under
it.
Templar rule.
It's been a 400-year process.
Every part of that sentence just makes me furious. Every single part of it. I'm just angry. And I am angry watching this movie at the complete erasure of Jews, and I would argue erasure of Muslims as well. They never use the word Muslim. They have, like, a guy named Muhammad, which is, the name of the Muslim Emir of Granada. But, like, they don't use the word Muslim. Like, they refer to religious discord, but, like, what do you mean religious discord? You don't have any other religions. The only other religion is the Assassin's Creed.
The two religions in this are Templar
and Assassin. Like, what? And so, because, like, there are actual, like, human people who were, like, harassed and murdered by the institution of the Inquisition and at the witches of Ferdinand and Isabella, and that they get erased from the movie, and that also, not to mention all the people Columbus murdered, they get erased from the movie we're like, oh, Columbus, this fucking hero. I'm just so angry. So I'm actually even going to go down from what I was initially thinking before. I'm going to a 1.5.
Did you say 4?
1.5.
Sorry.
Movie's getting a 1.5.
I was hoping to trick you into saying it, and then I just, like, layer it over the top. But I might go back and find a 4 somewhere else.
Like in a different episode where I give something a 4.
I'm actually going to go down from my original thing. 4 out of 5. But yeah, no, look, I totally understand. Even your 2, even this 1.5, I 100% get it. Like, as you were watching it, you were sending me text messages at the same time, because usually when I'm going to do an episode, myself and Sarah watch them at the same time and text, but just it didn't work out this time. And because I'd never seen it, some of the texts Sarah was sent me, I was like going, this is going to be fucking terrible. And then I said I was pleasantly surprised to watch it and go, well, that doesn't really make a difference to me. But I totally get where you're coming from about why it would.
Right.
Just, it must have infuriated you. It's one of the few times where I see a lot of the F-bomb getting dropped in text messages between the two of us when we're not talking about people we both know.
And okay, also, just by the way, in terms of, like, me being personally offended by this movie, I actually also would like to say, so, the Knights Templar, they're a military order. They certainly have, blood on their hands. I'm not saying the Templars are, unequivocally great or anything. But they also are victims of the Catholic Church. King Philip IV of France, because the Templars owed him money, then in collusion with the papacy, like, they accused these people falsely of heresy and murdered most of them. So I'm also, like, offended that there are these other people who are also victims of the medieval church who are now being, like, presented as, like, the source of all evil.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, they did lead to the events of Kingdom of Heaven too, so...
Anyway, so, I'm actually not saying don't watch this movie. I think that especially if you're not me, you might have a good time watching this movie. But I hope you'll remember to think about the people, the real people whose murders are erased by this film.
Now I feel bad for enjoying my time with the movie, Sarah. I take it back, guys. My official score is 1.5 out of 5 as well for erasing history.
And I will say, the reason, it gets a 1.5 because it is a genuinely entertaining watch. It would get lower if it wasn't.
Yeah. No, I totally, like, I'm joking here. As soon as I was watching it, or as I was watching it, I was there going, I knew we were going to be separated on our scores. And
which is fine.
again, 100% agree with everything you're saying. It's not a problem. I mean, I'm still angrier that you didn't give 13th Warrior 5 out of 5.
You know
I just
what?
want to point out 13th Warrior, a movie that Sarah teaches in her college. But
you know what, Ollie, I will say, 13th Warrior, every time I rewatch it, and I've actually rewatched it multiple times because I have taught it, every time I'm like, of what there's out there, this is one of the better ones. And I genuinely enjoy when I have to rewatch it, and I enjoy teaching and talking to my students about it and about Viking Spitballs.
oh God, don't eat. Oh, that's the bit you always remind me of. Anyway,
I always make my students talk about the Spitballs.
Stop, Sarah. It's disgusting.
So I'm gonna take back over my own podcast now. So Ollie, thank you for guest hosting.
For talking over you and
podcast.
guest hosting.
Are there places where the listeners could find you on the internet?
No, they're not. You cannot find me. However,
You're a ghost.
recently, as a project with some kids at school, I showed them how to make a podcast, and I started a podcast with them, which is currently only available at SoundCloud. I probably will get them to release it as an actual product podcast that you can get on like iTunes and podcast addict at some stage. But if you want to see what it's like to be a 40-year-old physics teacher getting verbally abused by 3 16-year-old girls, look up Defend Your Flicks on SoundCloud. So it's based on Netflix, and we watch something which is available on Netflix because everybody has Netflix really, and it's we all picked something that we are interested in. So we watched Mamma Mia, and I was nice about what the girls liked. We watched
We're not.
Outer Banks, and we're nice about what the girls liked. We watched, what was the other thing? I can't even remember what the third one we watched before. Oh, we watched, no, it's gone from my head. I'm sorry, Rebecca, it was your choice, but I've forgotten what it was we watched for that. And then we watched Love and Monsters, which was my pick, which I thought was an excellent movie. And the three girls quite literally ripped me to shreds for liking that movie. And I still think that if you watch it, it's an enjoyable movie. But at one girl said, "It's so bad, you should feel bad." So yeah,
good for them.
Defend Your Flicks, it's called. So if you want to watch, Enola Holmes was the one we watched with for Rebecca.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember why I forgot it because I watched that with Sarah. So
yep.
Oh God, yeah, good times. I'm a girl, but not like other girls. I'm better because I'm like a boy.
Of course.
But yeah, but said Defend Your Flicks. It's basically the four of them just slagging me off. Apparently, wearing check shirts is Mr. Brady. That's like 10 years out of date. And thanks. I'm happy. I'm happy to be within 15 years of in date. I love that you're
just getting savaged by these young women. Good for them.
Sarah's
Tell them I'm on their side.
You've listened to. Yeah, Sarah's on their side,
uh-huh.
and I know Sarah's listened to at least one episode.
Yep.
But
I listened to the Mamma Mia episode.
It's just they're just so mean to me.
It's very charming, and they're absolutely right.
Yeah, that's true, and they love the stuff that they love. Like they go to bat for it and will not hear any criticism of it. It's kind of funny, like. But anyway, that's it. Defend Your Flicks. Give it a listen sometime, and if you don't, it's not a big deal. It's fine. The girls would be happy to know that strangers were listening.
Yeah, it's very charming. You should listen. And if you have enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe in your preferred podcatcher app and rate and review Media-eval on Apple Podcasts, and I will read new 5-star reviews in future episodes. Please also follow the podcast on Twitter at Media-eval-pod and join the Facebook group, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Sarah F. Checker. If you have any questions or suggestions, I'd love to hear from you via email at media.evalpod@gmail.com. Ollie, thank you again for joining me to talk about this movie, which I have now watched and will never forget.
Sarah, I have a request.
Yes.
So we're about to go, or whatever. I would like to come back.
Okay.
And the movie I would like to cover is called The Eagle, starring Channing Tatum and Jamie Bell. And it's because it features a long section of them speaking Irish.
Ooh.
And I think that might be my chance to to outperform you
It's true.
on a foreign language.
You absolutely could.
Yeah,
it's a little early, but we could pull it off.
I don't think you've ever seen it, have you?
No, I haven't. And 2nd century CE is a little before my period, but I've done a Jesus movie. I could do that.
I think we can pull it off. Okay, perfect. So, guys listening, I'll be back at some stage to forget that I'm not the host and start introducing the segments again.
I encourage it because then you can sing, because I'm sure as hell not singing.
Well, it's you can sing, Ollie, is a very poor description of what I do. But anyway, Sarah, it's absolutely always a pleasure. I love listening when I'm not on, and I love coming on as a guest when I am. So thanks a million for running the podcast and doing the podcast and letting us all learn a little bit of history from you.
Thank you. I'm always delighted to have you back on, and thank you all for listening to Media-eval. Bye.